Rewind Room, the nostalgic podcast that takes you down memory lane and helps you relive those moments we all love and can't get enough of. For our final episode of season 1, the end of
Wow.
2025, we're rewinding to something quiet but essential: PBS funding credits. PBS is a nonprofit public broadcaster built to educate and serve without traditional advertising, relying on viewers, foundations, and grants to survive. Those simple credits, calm, familiar, and easy to overlook, became part of the emotional rhythm of growing up with PBS. They remind us of a gentler kind of television, one that existed because people chose to support it, and why that support matters now more than ever. Oh man, this is going to be a great episode, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, my friend. For those who may be listening for the first time or not know, my name is John,
And
and
I'm Ramona.
yep, you're Ramona. So y'all should probably know that by now. I mean, we're on. Come
Yeah,
on, we're on what? Episode 12
12.
now. So come on, y'all should know. But if this is your first time joining, we highly suggest that you go back and listen from the beginning because then you will get to truly understand who we are. Then after that, you can skip around wherever you want. But
Yeah.
basically, I'm doing great. I'm really excited today for this episode. I really, this is something I am a bit of a nerd about. I will be the first to admit it, and Ramona knows this. It's just something so memorable from when I was young. Every time you watch a PBS show, you always get those credits. You can't really get around them. You kind of just have to write it out. And even on the children's shows, they were there. So I think it's really a testament just to how impactful PBS really was in our lives, and just showing that, even the little moments sometimes just made that a little bit more special. But before we get into this episode proper, I have an email to read from one of my friends. And
Whoop,
you
whoop.
actually heard from this person back when we did our episode on children's television shows. It is my friend Willa, and she just wanted to let us know that she's loved what we did this whole year. So
Yes,
I'm
let's
happy.
go.
Here's the email. It's titled Love the Podcast. Hi, John and Ramona. You have done a wonderful job on your podcast. I am a big fan of the podcast and want to let you know to keep it up and don't ever stop.
Oh
I
wow.
am so glad that JC loves my Diamond Beat artwork. If you remember from the episode, that same episode, I had a Slytherin Diamond Beat on my wall from her, and it was pretty incredible, wouldn't you say,
It's
my friend?
awesome.
Yeah, it
It
was
is
awesome. I
awesome.
couldn't even tell that those were diamonds. I thought literally she painted that. Like it was so
Yeah.
good. And I will continue doing Diamond Beat paintings. It is one of my favorite hobbies. Thank you for mentioning me in that episode. It made me feel really happy. Of course, my friend. Of course, I'm going to give you a shout out whenever
Oh
I
yes,
can. And
thank you for
yeah,
listening.
absolutely.
Yes.
And thank you for listening. Thank you, John and Ramona, for the podcast, and keep on rocking it. Wow. Thank you
Let's
so
do it.
much. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And real quick, I just want to throw this out just real quick. My friend Willa actually does diamond bead work professionally. She actually has an Etsy, Willa by Willa. So go check her out because she actually does a lot of great work for all of that stuff. And you never know, maybe you'll find something you like. So go check it out for sure. Yeah, just thought I'd throw that in there real quick. But without further ado, let us get into the episode proper.
Let's
PBS
do it.
funding credits.
Let's do it.
Um, yeah, I think it's just really cool because I mean, obviously, it's something you can't really get around, you can't really skip. And the thing is that, and I'm gonna say this, my friend, but there's just something so nostalgic about just those few seconds of these guys giving thanks to all the people who helped make these shows possible. Um, I think it's just really interesting in the fact of the matter that, and I don't know about you, but I think it's just looking back now, obviously when we were kids, we didn't really pay much attention to these. We were just like, let us get to our show, let us watch what we want to watch. But
It was something that I grew to appreciate, like you're saying, as an adult.
yes,
Because as a kid,
absolutely.
it's just a part of the show, really.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think really when PBS, when we go back and watch those shows, especially now, because we still watch PBS to this day.
Yeah.
Whether it's still PBS Kids, I'm not afraid that, and I'm not even incriminating myself. love PBS
I love
kids.
PBS. I'm
I
still
think
watching
it's
Arthur right now.
I still watch Arthur. I still watch a lot of the shows. They're comfort shows for me, you know. And
100%.
I'll go as far even to say that I also love contemporary PBS, you know, that's made more for adults. I want to say adult PBS, but I know that's not going to sound very good. Boy, if you don't. Yeah, you all know what I mean though, but even so, you know, the funders that go in that put their own money up to allow these shows to go forward. I mean, we couldn't, we would not have the same experience without you guys because really, when you look at it, PBS funding credits not only give thanks, but they acknowledge the people who make the shows like Arthur, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Ken Burns, Frontline,
Reading Rainbow.
Zaboomafoo, Reading Rainbow, and even more modern shows like Carl the Collector and Pinkalicious. All of these shows are possible because of these funders. We're able to get the quality shows that we love because of these funders, and I just think it's amazing, and I think it's only right that we give them thanks.
Absolutely. It's made possible by viewers like you.
Thank you. Anyhow,
I had to. I had to.
no, I had to as well. We,
Yeah.
on Rewind Room, guys, we have fun as well. That's the other thing too, is that we're not just a podcast that gives you straight facts. We have fun while we're doing it. So
You got it. You gotta.
you have to. I mean, if
You
you
have to
don't,
laugh,
then
gotta smile.
you gotta laugh, you gotta smile, you gotta do what you gotta do, and it's absolutely amazing. But
Absolutely.
anyhow, let's get into our first segment, the background of the PBS funding credits. So you probably won't believe this, but there is a background to it. I mean, it probably doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I mean, it's got to start somewhere, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. To
So,
last this long, absolutely.
absolutely. So, to kick this off, the one thing that we have to acknowledge first off is that PBS is not a corporate or commercially funded company. So they're not like a lot of other channels that you might see where they have commercial breaks. They, show stuff for like laundry detergent, the newest movies coming out, and all that kind of stuff. PBS is a publicly funded company, meaning that they rely on donations and funds and grants from other outside sources in order to give the shows. And the reason they do this is because through this, they're able to present these shows to you even if you don't have cable, meaning that if all you have is rabbit ears, a smart TV that can link to the PBS app, you don't need necessarily a subscription to watch PBS. You don't need to pay money for it. You can just watch PBS from the comfort of your own home at no cost to you whatsoever, unless you choose to make a donation. Isn't that something?
Oh, that's awesome. Especially in this day and age of streaming where you're paying $10 here, $10 there
Yeah.
every month to have this outlet that you can just rely on for educational TV, but also just to relax and unwind. It's just fantastic. You don't really even see that nowadays anymore.
Yeah, and really when you think about it, the one thing I look at is when I was a kid, I had no access to cable networking whatsoever. My parents, we lived in a small apartment. It wasn't really small, but I mean, it was fairly small. I had some of the best memories there, but one of the biggest things I remember was we did not have cable. We were not able to afford a cable package, so we ended up just having the old-fashioned rabbit ears, that most people have just to get local news, local channels, and moreover, PBS shows were available to me. So that's what I grew up watching, and I grew up watching shows like Arthur, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Barney and Friends, Zaboomafoo, shows of that nature were what really kind of raised me. And to be honest with you, it was probably the best shows I could have ever experienced because not only are they amazing shows, but they're shows that also allow for education and growth in youth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
when you watch other shows, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of other amazing shows on cable networks. Blue's Clues, for one, is an amazing one. Of course, we talked about a lot on our episode about children's shows. We talked about shows like Fairly Odd Parents. We talked shows like I'm trying to think of the other one, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Shows that we grew up with, but PBS offered a lot of educational content that allowed people to grow as people, and I think that's what's so amazing about it. Um, but when they rely heavily on donations and funds, the thing is that um, you always have to have that keep coming in, and you have to realize too that there's not a lot of outlet for that, meaning that, you have to rely on certain funders, and funders will only fund sometimes certain shows or certain things, and then there's others that will fund other things. And, that's the other thing too, is, funding is not always guaranteed. And I think that's another thing that's important about PBS, especially in this day and age, that you really have to look at. I mean, um, especially with what we're seeing now, funding is so important to the fact that if the funding doesn't come in, then you don't get these shows. And I think, at the end of the day, PBS is it's so amazing that they have these funders that can do these shows, And my friend, the one thing I want to say to you, is with PBS and um and PBS Kids, you know, getting educational content the way that we got it was more than amazing, because I think I learned more from those shows than I ever learned in school. I don't know about you, my friend, but that's how I kind of feel.
I learned how to be a good person, and that trumps any sort of academic thing that I could have learned in school or even on a television show. Because yes, as much as there is an importance to being academically all there, to be a good person is something that at times feels like it's a scarce. There's a scarce source. There are scarce sources out there that actually give you genuine, I guess, knowledge, worldly knowledge on how to be a good person. And I can guarantee you, if you were to travel back in time, say 20 years, and pop on PBS Kids, you could watch every single show and learn something about character, learn something about forgiveness, learn something
Hmm.
about loving yourself in
Yep.
one way or another. It wasn't just a means of distraction, it was a means of learning who you are as a person, your place in life, and also loving your neighbor. I mean, heck, that was
Yeah.
literally the motto for one of the greatest shows arguably on PBS,
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And
Literally.
and the fact that this is free and at your disposal whenever you want, whenever, no matter the income, no matter where you live, is just
Mhm.
something that we're going to miss one day. I promise you, we as humans are going to miss that one day, because everything is just becoming commercialized
Yeah.
and everything's a commodity and monopolized and this and that. But
Mhm.
PBS was this free for all for education that taught me so much on who I was as a person and how to treat the people around me. And like John was saying so beautifully, it was available to all of us. And it's so important because, yes, you can find educational outlets in different places, but to find out how to be a good person through a silly
Yeah.
20-minute show, it's life changing, and it absolutely was life changing for me.
100%. When you talk about being a good person, I think that's very important to bring up because, when you look at a show like Mr. Rogers, one thing I did find out, and I mean, I'm not faulting him, obviously. I think it's amazing that this was his mission, but Mr. Rogers was a Presbyterian minister. And, the fact of the matter that he went on and did a show that didn't judge anyone, that didn't look down on anyone, or kind of ascribe to the stereotypical belief of, Christians and all these other people. But the fact of the matter that he said, "You're my neighbor. I welcome you into my home, no matter who you are, how you identify, who the kind of person you want to be. You're my neighbor, and I'm gonna love you no matter what." That was incredible because not many shows did that. And it was the same with Arthur. It made you feel like you had a friend group, a friend group that you could hang out with every day. For me especially, I didn't have that as a young child. I didn't have um a big group. I only had maybe a couple friends here and there, but yet when I watched Arthur, I felt like I had all the friends in the world, because of just seeing the adventures Arthur and his pals went on. And PBS offers this to all of us at no cost whatsoever. And I think that's the most amazing part of them. And that's why this funding is so important, and why it's so important to acknowledge the people who allow this funding. And, PBS, aside from PBS Kids, is also known for other quality content from shows, like the documentaries of Ken Burns, getting to learn about America and how our country became to be. Obviously, the thing I love about Ken Burns is he takes a very unbiased view of things. He doesn't just try to look at it through a certain lens. I mean, obviously, I know some critics might say that about some of his shows, but really, from what I've seen, he explores all angles of it and really tries to come to the point that, America's not perfect, but there are people here who did do great things and did try to do their best to enhance the best of who they could be, And I think that's important. You have shows like Frontline, which kind of explore, different topics in society. And then you have shows like, just the fun stuff like Bob Ross. I know in the PBS episode, I said we were going to talk about Bob Ross, and you know what? I forgot to talk about it. So, real quick, I just want to say I feel like Bob Ross sometimes is adult Mr. Rogers because really he's painting a picture and he's talking a lot of wisdom, really, if you think about it when he's doing
Yeah.
it. He brings animals on that he's rescued. He has guests on, and sometimes he's just painting a picture, and he's like, sometimes all you got to do is paint something like this happy little tree, something so innocent and so delicate. And if only some of us took some of that into our own lives, we could be better people. And I'm hearing this, and I'm going, my gosh, a man who's painting is giving me wisdom. It's wild,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and it shows like this that really are so deserving of not only the funding, but the amount of time and viewership from people because you're getting not only amazing content teaching you how to paint, teaching you how to sew, teaching you how to cook, but you're also getting life lessons with it. I've noticed this, especially with even like Sewing with Nancy. She would do the same thing. Julia
Mm,
Child would do the same thing, because that's where her show got started was on PBS. And
yeah.
and really, if you look at it, PBS, when I say quality content, I'm not just saying quality in terms of like visuals and audio and all that. That's all great. But quality in the forms of, like you said, my friend, teaching us all how to be just better humans and pushing these little lines just a little bit further. And I think it's just
Hmm.
absolutely beautiful that
Yeah.
we have people like that.
Yeah, and then, nowadays you have all of these colorful, loud TV shows that are super hyperactive. And PBS, whether you're watching PBS Kids or as an adult watching PBS, it gives you a time to, say, reflect and mentally relax. You're
Yeah.
not bombarded by pushy commercials, and you're also not feeling like you are constantly in a state of hyperactiveness with the music that they play, with even how they speak to you. There's like a low a pause. There are pauses and low
Yeah.
tones
100%.
that are so welcoming, and it's so neutral. The language, it's not aggressive, it doesn't feel desperate, and it takes you into like a zone. I don't know, like you were saying, even watching Bob Ross. I didn't grow up watching Bob Ross,
Mhm.
but I see him all the time. I see his clips all the time circulated through
Yep.
TikTok, Facebook. I'll name every social media thing, and it gives me a moment to just pause, because it takes us as adults. We're living fast-paced lives. Things are going on. You have politics, you have the economy, you have climate, you have your own family life, you have work, you have whatever you subscribe
Yeah.
to in life. And then you take a moment from a show like this, and it separates you from that, and it takes you into this other world where you can
Mhm.
remember, oh yeah, I'm a human. We're trying our best.
Mhm.
Let's appreciate the time that we have. Let's appreciate the people in our lives, and the fact that we can get that, and we were able to get that in the past without having to be a kid, is fantastic. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people, when a lot of people, I'm not going to lie, especially for myself too, when we think about PBS, I think about PBS Kids because that's what I grew up on.
Same.
But PBS is still there for adults, and obviously PBS Kids is there for adults too, but
Yeah.
we arguably need it the most. Kids are growing and learning, but adults, they've already done that and they're continually doing that, but then we dissociate, and we just go through the everyday motions of life, and to have an outlet like PBS to remind us to stop and take a breath is just, I can't, I'm at a loss for words as to how important it is, especially today in 2025.
100%. You said that beautifully, my friend. I mean, especially when you look at, where PBS funding is headed, and we will talk about that more in the episode. And
Yeah.
don't worry, I will remember to bring this up again at the very end of the episode. Hold me accountable, my friend.
I will.
Sounds good. Please.
I
And
forgot too. Don't. It's on us, guys. It's on us. It's not on John. It's on us.
No, the thing is, we get talking sometimes, and then the next thing you know, we end up forgetting to like talk about one other thing because we get so passionate about one thing. So
We get so passionate, and then like 3 hours pass, and we're like, okay, we're hungry. We should probably cut it off right here.
exactly, we're hungry, we're tired,
Yeah.
we're hungover. No, I'm kidding about the hungover part, but I hope I'm kidding.
Oh
But,
man, no, you yeah. Oh man,
but
I can't imagine.
no, I can't imagine either. But anyhow, it's interesting how when you look at all of this PBS, these funders and the people who allow PBS to go and do what they do are so important because without them, like I said before, you don't have PBS, you don't have the public
Nope.
broadcasting system,
Nope.
and this idea is probably going to come up many more times because it is the central idea to why it's so important.
Hmm.
But
They
you
keep the
know,
lights on.
absolutely. So, for those of you who may have not watched PBS or may not be as familiar with PBS, let me break down how this plays out real quick because it's a little essential to understanding how this all goes down. So, before every PBS program, whether it's a documentary, whether it's nature, whether it's um, cooking show, Bob Ross, and PBS Kids especially, it doesn't matter what. They always take a moment at the beginning and at the end of the show to thank the funders
Hmm.
of the public broadcasting system. And it's always before that. And oftentimes, if you watch DVD and VHS releases, they still do not remove half of the time the funding credits that play before and after the
Mm.
show. And I'll give some examples. For one, I own Ken Burns' series Jazz, which is an amazing series. I highly recommend you guys go and check it out. It's about how jazz became such a big phenomenon in the from the early 1900s till about the 1950s and 60s. It's an incredible
Oh.
series, and they really chronicle every little detail. And Ken Burns leaves nothing really to the imagination. He gets pretty real with it, so I highly recommend you check it out. But anyhow, even on those DVD releases, they leave all the funding credits in, which I think is amazing because it really goes to show how much PBS really appreciates the funders and people who allow PBS to be PBS.
Yeah, and they're being transparent about it too. They're not over here trying to hide the fact that they rely on
No,
people. If anything, they're encouraging people to continue and to start helping because at the
yeah.
end of the day, even just donating $1, and I've heard this even on NPR, even just donating $1 goes a long way.
Yeah, 100%. And even just like you said, a dollar, a couple dollars, just a little bit here and there, it really makes a difference because then that's another fund that they can add to keep these shows going and to
Absolutely. I mean,
keep
you get a room of 100 people, and each of them donate $1. That's $100
That's a
already.
$100 right there, and can you imagine? That's at least maybe I wouldn't say a show, but that's at least availability to keep the people getting their paychecks,
Yeah,
and to
yeah.
keep the people being able to continue to do their jobs. That's
Mm-hmm.
enough right there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing just to see what a dollar can really do. But anyhow, what would happen is before the show, you'd always get this thing like, major funding for this show is provided by, and then they list the funders. For some shows, they had some bigger funders, like General Motors. They had, like car companies, food companies, insurance companies. Sometimes for bigger broadcasts, they'll have these kind of things. But the majority of the time, you'll hear, a lot of different trusts. Like you'll hear, like, major funding for this show is provided by the Pew Charitable Trust, the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and then they always end it with, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by contributions to PBS stations from viewers like you. Thank you.
Major corporate funding for the Civil War was provided by
Funding for rock and roll is provided by
Funding for Arthur is provided by
Barney and Friends is funded in part by
Funding was also provided by the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation's
the National Endowment for the Arts,
Kimberly Clark, makers of Huggies diapers, baby wipes, and training pants.
Also, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting
is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
The Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
And the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
The annual financial support of viewers like you.
And viewers like you.
Thank you.
And that's how usually a typical PBS funding credit would go. And then they would roll that again at the end of the show.
I feel like I was just watching PBS just now. Thank you for that, John.
Yeah, no problem for sure. On this episode of Nature, we track how a gazelle gets her meal at the end of the day. Stay tuned, folks. Oh boy. but basically that's how it goes. And then once the show ends, then they bring the credits back in and then they go on to the next show and then you get credits for that show. Yeah. And the thing that's interesting is each show felt like it had unique funders. I mean, some of them were the same. A lot of the grants, a lot of the of course the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was there, but it felt like there was always something a little different that was coming in.
Oh yeah, and you had different like voices, you had different imagery, and it felt so unique and tailored to what you were watching. I mean, there were times where, I'm not gonna lie, there were times where sometimes they gave me like an eerie feeling because of the colors and whatnot. But then there were other times, you know, where you're like, oh, this actually is better than the actual show that I'm currently watching.
No, for real. I mean, there were times I was literally creeped out by these things, you know. Yeah. In fact, you know, one thing that I do want to talk about on the show is, I know you didn't really feel this, but I know a lot of other people did, was the fact that some logos for some of these companies were just eerie and distant and they felt creepy. Yeah. You know, and I mean, I don't think they were trying to be, but it was. No. Was. And it was the same with these funding credits. Sometimes you'd be in a dark room and then there would be this dark shade of purple. Funding for PBS is funded by the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation, the John T. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. And you're just like, what the heck did I just watch?
What did I just watch? Exactly.
You know, I mean, probably the creepiest, I would say, I don't know, did you ever see the show Mystery?
No, I don't even think I've heard of it.
Okay, it was basically, I guess you could say, kind of a ripoff of Masterpiece Theater, but it wasn't. It was kind of like a show. It was hosted by Vincent Price, and it had a very kind of eerie intro. I'll have to send you the intro for that. It was really kind of cool. It was black and white. It was very kind of eerie. It was almost kind of like, I don't really know how to describe it. You just kind of have to see it. It's really hard to describe, but it was very kind of this creepy thing with like people like these detectives hunting this person. There's this like lady who's laying down. She's like, oh, and don't get weird ideas, folks. But yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah. So I may need to post this for context now because I just did that. But
I'm gonna need that context. Absolutely.
Yeah. I promise, folks, you'll get the context. But there was an old show called Mystery, and it was basically like they basically ran like shorts of like mystery stories, basically.
Gotcha.
And it was iconic, and it was a little eerie, I'll say. But I'll send you I'll have to send you the opening for that show because it was wild. And they only had one funder, and that was Motor Corporation.
Mystery is made possible by a grant from Mobile Corporation. Bruh.
Which I find interesting.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or at least that they acknowledged. I mean, I'm sure Corporation for Public Broadcasting and these others helped out, but I mean, that's the only one I saw. It just said Mystery is funded in part by Motor Corporation. I'm like, that's it?
No, it's interesting what companies choose to fund and what they choose to support.
The shows they choose to fund.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. It's pretty wild, you know. And, you know, really looking at this, I feel like it's funding because not only does this allow PBS to have jobs and allow them to have what they are, this makes up their budget. Keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is what makes up their budget. This is what allows them to be able to not only pay people, but to actually put the shows on the air.
And for those of you who are not familiar, production is a very, very costly effort, especially if you're having dozens of shows running at the same time. You know, like these things aren't free.
1000%. I mean, and that's the thing I think a lot of people forget is that whatever shows go on the air and whatnot, it's not free. I mean, just to put it on the show, you have to pay airtime.
Yep.
Or put on the air, I mean, sorry. But
Yep.
it's one of those things. It's like, if you want to put a good quality production on, you need to have good quality equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and
You
you
have to have
can't,
good money behind it.
and you have to have good money. Exactly. So it's one of those things where you can't just say, "Oh, I want to just do this show and I just think I can do a good job." No, you have to have good money behind it, because if you don't, then you have crap quality. It doesn't work properly, and the next thing you know, you can't even get on the air because you need to find airtime. You need to pay for that.
And aside from that, you also get this artistic and creative freedom to create a show that you want because it's funded by the same audience watching it, versus being funded by private corporations telling you what to do, telling you what to take out. At the end of the day, it gives power back to the people. The dollar that you're putting in comes back out to you with you in mind.
1000%. And actually, to add to that, I think what's even more crazy and important is, it not only allows them to deliver these quality and educational shows, but it's able to do it at no cost to the person, really,
Yeah.
who's watching it. I mean, obviously, yeah, they might have to pay to get their rabbit ears to watch it, or maybe pay to get the TV to stream it, but really you don't have to pay an extra fee just to watch, live PBS. I mean, even when I tried the PBS app here, I just put in what station I was in, and I put Arizona, and it connected me straight to it, and I didn't have to pay a dime.
Yeah. And even just turning on your TV and watching that channel for an hour, it helps a lot because it boosts ratings and it shows these companies, these streaming networks, it shows everyone that it's still relevant and it's still loved by the masses.
1000%. And really, one of the even cooler parts about that is, not only is it just watched by the masses, but you have to think too, when you look at the public broadcasting system, is not only in that regard, but the thing is, there's no way I'm going to get around this. They do have a paid service called PBS Passport, basically, but it relies on donations. It's not like a Netflix subscription where you got to pay this much to watch these shows. It's like, if you want a little extra, if you want to stream shows in the same way as this, you can make a donation. And they don't tell you what you have to pay for it. They allow you to set the donation yourself. Can you imagine that amount of power to the person where they can choose how much they want to pay to get a streaming service?
It's also so humbling too, because you have these streaming platforms that are like, we're increasing prices next year by $10 or whatever. You hear that, and then here's PBS just like, hey, if you have a spare buck or whatever to get a little extra perks, go ahead and do it. If you can, you can. Great. You're never going to hear Netflix being like, well, if you can give us some money, you can enjoy some of our show. Like, no, it'll never. It's always been about money with these people. But PBS is by the people for the people.
Hey, Tits and Daros, if you're listening to this, maybe we can hook up something like that. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are trying to watch Stranger Things season 5 right now. I mean, hey,
Man.
come on, let's see what we can do.
Man.
I was surprised if you could turn up a higher payout and turn up even bigger shows if you did that.
Yeah, well, who knows? If we're inspiring you, please let us know.
Oh my gosh, yes, please do let us know. But I love that, that PBS offers so many shows to people. But the other thing too is that when you watch certain PBS shows, and I don't know if you've noticed this, my friend, certain shows, and you mentioned this earlier, okay, so you guess you did have to, but that certain shows have sometimes different sponsors, and it's interesting to see what they choose to sponsor. And it's interesting to see that some shows had higher sponsors or even bigger names sponsoring them than others,
Yep. All about reach and prestige and really what matters to the people who are giving up their dollar.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching Ken Burns, and he got funded by Bank of America one time, I'm not even joking.
Bank. Whoa. Now
Bank of America funded
top
him.
dollar right there. That's a great, oh my gosh, that's a great sponsor.
Exactly, and Bank of America was just one of those big sponsors that came out of the woodworks to do that. I remember Arthur was funded by Danimals for a while, Danimals yogurt.
Oh, I love yogurt. Oh man, and I love Danimals too, especially the commercials too with the animals and whatnot.
Yeah, and then eventually I think Zaboomafoo and Clifford did it first, and then Arthur did it.
Really?
But
Okay.
I remember seeing Arthur being funded by Danimals for a while toward
Oh
some of the
man.
later seasons. But
Oh
um,
man. Oh man.
and then you have all these corporate people who are willing to lend money too, like Juicy Juice and
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you guys remember the old Arthur intro, that was huge.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? Have a listen, folks.
This program is made possible in part by a grant from Libby's Juicy Juice. Juicy Juice, 100% juice for 100% kids.
But anyhow, no, I think really what's important in that regard is that, you see that there's actual corporations willing to reach out and do that. And one thing I've noticed is that, of course, people like Ken Burns and American Experience, American Masters, of course they can get the higher sponsors because their shows are some of the highest rated on PBS. So of course there's going to be more people wanting to do it. But the one thing I've noticed is that a lot more of the educational stuff, especially even the PBS Kids stuff, often draws in larger sponsors because I feel like there's a bigger empathy toward education in our country. So obviously, if they see something's
Yeah.
educational, they're like, "Yeah, we want to help. We want to
Children
get
of the
this show."
future.
Yeah, children of the future. We want to help. We want to get this show on the air because it's going to help people.
And they weren't shameless about it. I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays, I can't blame big corporations, but it's not like I was watching Arthur drink a Juicy Juice box. Whereas nowadays, like going back to, like, say, Stranger Things, every scene was them holding on to Doritos or some name brand thing that they paid millions of
Yeah.
dollars to be sponsored by. And it wasn't shameless, and it was humble, and it
Mhm.
wasn't in your face. To where nowadays it's like, it's impossible to watch more than 5 minutes of something without seeing something branded. And
Yeah.
PBS did it so well because they recognized that they had an image to continue to present, and it didn't feel like I was being force fed
Yeah.
advertisements. It didn't feel like I was being force fed agendas. Like, if Juicy Juice was able to provide funding, I wasn't reminded of it every 5 minutes in the show.
Yeah. Exactly, 100%. And the best thing I can say too is I did actually want to drink Juicy Juice because of it.
Me too, me too. But that's besides the fact. It's not like you were
Yeah.
constantly reminded throughout the show. That's something that we caught on before or after the show, and then we went to our parents and begged when we went to the grocery
I
store.
don't know if you knew this or not, but when Arthur first got funded by Juicy Juice, they actually rolled out Juicy Juice with the Arthur characters on the boxes.
I think I have a vague memory of that. I feel like I have a
Yeah.
very vague memory of that.
Yeah. I'll have to see if I can find some photos of that because I think that'd be cool to throw up on the Insta for sure.
Not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure you could probably even go on eBay to see if people have, like, preserved them too.
Oh,
That
I
would be
wonder how
so
much they would
cool.
cost
I
now.
know, and I wonder how they would taste.
Probably like shit
100%
if
from
I'm being
concentrate.
honest. Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, those didn't have, did they have, I don't know if they had preservatives in them or not.
I can't remember, to be honest.
Because I know the 90s was still kind of
Ingredients.
a weird area, but
It was.
it's
It
not like now
was.
where all our food is filled with junk to preserve it. But
Yeah. If anything, it
we're
probably
not.
fermented.
Might have been. I don't even know, man, if
Yeah.
those are still good, nowadays. But I mean, still, I just want the box, just to have a box with Arthur on it. And then I can
Seriously.
throw on the iconic commercial and just hold it like this just to do it more real.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think it's wild, but I think obviously, um, educational content definitely draws a more sympathetic view from some of these people, and that's why I
Hmm.
can see that some of these people, some of these guys have the large sponsors. Kellogg's was a
Hmm.
huge one for Reading Rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what another one that was huge for all these people. Oh, it's funny in our department store episode we talked about Mervin's, right?
Yes. Yes. I believe so. Yes.
Mervin's actually sponsored early Reading Rainbow episodes because they were a part of Dayton Hudson.
No way.
It was like Reading
Okay.
Rainbow is sponsored by Dayton Hudson on behalf of Target, Mervyn's, Dayton Hudson department stores. I'm like,
Oh man. Oh man.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Mervyn's.
Oh man.
Yeah, because I forgot that I didn't know Target was ever owned by Dayton Hudson, but I'll have to look at the history of that. I don't even know. You see, this is how new this is all to me, is that I
Yeah.
don't even register that these were all owned by a certain company at one time or another.
Yeah, and it takes becoming, I don't know, socially cognizant about all these parent companies to realize it's all tied and connected to something,
Yeah.
and it makes sense because a lot of these companies and stores, especially like Mervyn's, I grew up seeing commercials of like pretty much based on, back to school sales,
Yeah.
like let's get the education on, get ready, get your best outfit ready to start the academic year, and you don't realize how much or how much support these companies have for children and children's education.
100%. It's absolutely wild to think that, a lot of these companies that we now reminisce or nostalgic over are some of the companies that went to help provide us these educational shows.
Absolutely. And I mean, a lot of it also could not have been done without the help of the CPB. I mean, at the end of the day, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was also
Absolutely.
like, top tier when it came to funding.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue into what I was about to talk to next. Thank you so much, my friend. I
I'm
appreciate
glad
it.
you caught that.
Yep, absolutely. So obviously one of the big funders that's always usually at the end of these funding credits. Sometimes it's at the beginning. It depends on what era of PBS you grew up in. But nowadays it's usually at the end. And one of the biggest funders that we see is known as the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Hmm.
And for those, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting basically was a major corporation funded by the government and the American people, funding broadcasters like PBS and NPR. So
Hmm.
basically, their
Yep.
whole mission is they are very heavily funded by um, government funds. Basically, that's
Hmm.
basically what their whole mission is. And so the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was created under the Public Broadcasting Act of 1967 and has received annual funding for PBS from 1967 until 2015. Although they still do fund because there are still a lot of shows that still have the CPB logo on it to this day.
Okay.
But requiring basically, kind of like every time that they would actually do it. But now it's kind of like it's in a bit of a bind, but we'll get to that in a minute. And
Yeah.
they're always listed on the PBS funding credits due to being a major funder, and they're often listed as one of the last ones right before the iconic Viewers Like You credit, because of how much of an impact they have on PBS basically.
Yeah, they offer it stability too, because I mean, the the corporations that are and businesses that are doing these funding, it's not really stable, it roller coasters, and it just, some years are better for some companies than they are for others.
Hmm.
And the CPB offers stability, because it is for educational purposes, and it ensures that the education, the locality of where you're getting it from, as John said, he connected to his local TV station, and the non-commercial programming is free for all, even if donations fluctuate. So
Hmm.
it's sort of like the backup plan to businesses who already are funding it.
Yeah, 100%. And when you look at the people with that, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, is huge. And around 1967, 68 was also the time that Mr. Rogers went to Congress to fight
Mm,
to keep PBS funding alive because of, how the whole situation was going on with the Nixon administration. And
yeah.
it's interesting to see, someone like Mr. Rogers, because, and I'll say this, and I'm not trying to get political here, but Mr. Rogers himself was a Republican, but yet he still cared about children's television so much that he actually went to Congress and sat before Senator John Pastore and demanded more funding.
Yeah, and I mean, education should not be politicized.
No, it
It's
should not.
not this. It's not it's not something that, is bipartisan. It's not something that is specific to a politic or
Yeah.
a political view or political ideology. It is the bare minimum we as human beings can do to offer not only ourselves, but the children of the future. It has no color, it has no
Hmm.
race, it has no age.
Yep.
It's for everyone and all. And even Mr. Rogers saw that.
100%. And the only reason I bring that up again is because of how people kind of look at it in the modern context and to give you guys more of an idea of that.
Yeah.
But I 100% agree with you, my friend.
Yeah.
I think it should not take on an ideology. It should not take on anything. It should just be kind of like, these are good shows and you should fund it because they provide amazing education, they provide entertainment, and moreover, they provide character for people.
Truly, yes, on the money. On the
And
money.
so, 100%. But the one reason we do bring up the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is also because with the recent acts that were passed just this last year, um, unfortunately, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting has been defunded very heavily, and they will be disbanding at the beginning of next year, unfortunately. So
It's heartbreaking.
it's very heartbreaking, and now it's really going to become about viewers like us and grants, PBS, and it's very unfortunate. It's something I makes me sick to my stomach, but at the end of the day, our voices really matter. So I guess the message I want to impart on all of you is that speak up where it matters, fund your local PBS stations, and make sure you keep the legacy going for many more generations.
Yeah, it's at this point it is our responsibility to do that. Not only for our future children, but for us as adults as well. We need an outlet like that to help us remind us to stop and take a breath. And if that means donating a couple dollars here or there, then so be it, because now the burden lies not on these big name corporations, but on us as people, as listeners.
100%. I agree, and I think at the end of the day, PBS has always been about viewers like us. It's always been about us as the people. And I think as much as this sucks, I think also this is an opportunity, and I'll bring this up again later near the end. I think it's an opportunity for us to now be able to have our own voices on what we want to see and what we want to have put out there as well. And
Spot on.
because it's our money now funding it, we can have more of that voice. And I'm not saying I agree with the defund. I absolutely do not. But I think now that that could possibly happen, and I think PBS has always done that, and that's why we have the shows we have. But I mean, at the same time, I think really now it's going to really become more about us.
Yes.
It's going to have to be,
Yeah.
and it always should have been, but I think it's and even more so now.
Yeah. What a time to be alive, and also what a time to
Yeah,
consider our neighbor.
100%. And with that, we come to the end of the PBS funding credits background. Now, segment 2, we're going to talk about our experience and knowledge. Now, I talked a lot through this. So, my friend, I'm going to let you start, and I'm going to ask you the question. When do you first remember seeing PBS funding credits?
After school, when I would pop on PBS and Arthur would come on. I always remember the either plaid or polka dotted patterns that they'd
Oh,
have, and then
yeah.
the motion text that was similar to like Courier New or something like that, a
Hmm.
thick font, and then it would just go straight into my program. I literally remember only watching them during certain shows, but now thinking back, it was before and after every single show, and I just overlooked it. As a kid, you just overlook things like that. But it was on while I watched Arthur, Dragon Tales, Liberty Kids, Zoom, Reading Rainbow, as you
Yeah.
mentioned before, Zaboomafoo, Mr. Rogers. It was everywhere in my face, and it didn't feel like it, but that's how I remember it the most. Like I said, didn't really grow up watching regular PBS, and I still to this
Mhm.
day don't really watch PBS, but
Fair.
PBS Kids, that's where I watched it after school,
Mhm.
in between my favorite shows. What about you?
First time I remember was obviously same thing, watching a lot of PBS Kids shows. The one thing I noticed is on a lot of the PBS Kids videotapes, especially like when I'd rent them from my local library and stuff, I
Okay.
always remember they would leave the funding credits intact, and I never really understood why. I remember when I rent old episodes of Reading Rainbow on VHS, oftentimes they'd be accompanied by the really old credits and the old intro, whereas on PBS, the channel, they switched it for the new funders and the new intro from like the 2000s
Ooh.
onward, even if it was an old episode from like the 80s or the 90s.
That's
And
nostalgic too. That's awesome.
yeah, and then I go and rent the tape, and that's how I learned about Reading Rainbow is made sponsored by Kellogg's and also by Dayton Hudson's on behalf of Target, Mervyn's, Dayton Hudson Department Store, and then there's one more I can't remember.
Reading Rainbow is made possible by a grant from Dayton Hudson Corporation on behalf of Target, Mervyn's, Dayton Hudson Department Store Company, and Leechmere.
And the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the contributions to your PBS station for viewers like you. And it was the OG Reading Rainbow intro with the
Oh
iconic
man.
Tina Verbrace singing the iconic Butterfly in the Sky. I can go twice as high. The OG version, because there's two versions of that intro. There's that version, then there's the modern intro that has more of a modern kind of aesthetic to it.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to look up the difference because I honestly was under the impression that there was only one.
No, there's a couple of them. I'll have to send you them both. But yeah, that's how I got to know the OG Reading Rainbow, even after that intro had phased out by the end of the 90s.
So that's cool that they insert bits of PBS past into the present, at least at that time it was the present, so that you have an idea of just how long they've been relying on viewers like us.
100%, and I know some of the others would kind of I think there were a couple that removed it, but for the most part, they leave them on the DVDs as well, and the home video releases of these programs.
I wish the only thing I owned, that at least I can recall. I'm sure I owned more, but when it comes to the shows themselves, I owned a couple of Dragon Tales episodes. I wish I still owned it to see if they still kept in the funding credits.
They may have. I don't know for sure on the Dragon Tales ones because I know there was one. I think I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was, but there was one that did remove it.
Okay.
But for the most part, they usually leave them intact, and so that was kind of what made it more nostalgic for me. And I think it's because the fact that you can't really skip it, you can't really get around it. I mean, sure, VHS tape you can fast forward it, DVD you can probably skip it, but it's there. Every time you hit play,
10 seconds, so it's like not. It's not compelling to skip because it's so fast.
It's so fast, but it's also so weirdly engaging. I don't know how to put it, but it's just so engaging to see funding for this program is provided by, and then they go through the funders and you're going, this is actually kind of cool. And then now also you're like, wait, I shop at this store, or wait, I go to this restaurant,
Yep. And did you ever question why this was happening while you were watching it as a kid?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I ever really did. I think at the time it was just more like, oh, this is just a part of the show, and I guess I got to deal with it.
You know
At
what?
least for me.
That's exactly what I was going to say too, because it's not like as you're a kid, you're like, okay, wait, funding credits. This is what it means.
Funding credits, yeah.
Hey, no shame to the listeners who only watched it for the funding credits, but if you did,
please let us know if you did.
Know.
Please let us know.
I never watched the PBS Kids shows. I only watched the funding credits. Now, that's something you probably will never hear in your life, but if that's you, please let us know.
Yes, if that is you, please let us know.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. But no, absolutely. No, I didn't really question. I think it was just more like, oh, this is a part of the show. I guess I just got to go with it, and just kind of that thing. I think it was only recently that I remember now it becomes so nostalgic because it's a part of, the show that you're watching.
Yeah. I mean, now it's like you watch a TV show on any streaming platform or whatever. Now you have commercials. Unfortunately, even though we sort of tried to stray away from that when it came to streaming, how ironic that is, but you don't get like a little warning saying like Stranger Things is funded in part by Doritos. Like,
I wish
you get like this like lights and music and this and that. Doritos, and you're like, oh, okay, Doritos, I guess. If anything, it repels me from wanting to buy or even support a brand. But like we're going back to Juicy Juice. Just hearing the that it was a part of a funding credit, you're like, okay, let's go buy a pack of Juicy Juice.
100%, or else Sesame Street and some of those other ones were funded by McDonald's, and I wanted a Happy Meal, you know?
No, yeah.
And
Powerhouse too.
Powerhouse
It funded
100%.
everything.
It funded everything exactly. And then there were shows like Zaboomafoo and others. I think the one that had the shortest credits was Mr. Rogers.
Really?
Because all you would get is at the beginning just this little basic funding credit that would say something to the effect of the people who give the money to make Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood are the people who contribute to this and other public television stations. And then the Sears Roebuck Foundation, or I think later on when Sears Roebuck stopped funding them, it was Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And then that was it.
The people who gave the money to make Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood are the people of this and other public television stations and the Sears Roebuck Foundation.
Well, Mr. Rogers generationally impacted people, and I feel like he left his mark in every single decade of the 90s or of the 1900s of the 20th century. So it makes sense that many people backed him up. They probably had so many that it would be a 10-minute long funding credit.
I have no idea how many truly funded him. I know Sears and Roebuck was his biggest funder for years. So Sears, basically, the Sears stores were his biggest funder. But I think it was around like the late 90s, early 2000s that switched to Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So I'm interested to know if Sears and Roebuck stopped funding him after a while.
And then why?
Yeah, and why? It's interesting. So, and the credits are not just credits, really. I think I don't know if you what you think of this, but they're a part of the show because it's unique to each show. Is the thing. It's not just like, oh, we're gonna go over the same funders over and over and over and over and over. It was unique to the show. They'd have different people, saying it. It wasn't just the typical funding for PBS is provided by, they change it up, they got creative with how they did it, and it was interesting to see certain funders on certain shows. And, on some shows you're like, oh, never heard of this, never heard of this, never heard of this. Okay, Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Okay. And then some you're like, I was saying, it's like McDonald's. I eat at McDonald's all the time. Target. I shop at Target. Mervyn's. I shop at Mervyn's,
It made you feel included. Yeah.
It made you feel included. And I think that was what was so special. And I'm going to ask you this, my friend. Is there any for you a renewed sense of respect or admiration for the fact that PBS would list each of their funders before each program?
Yes, especially in today's, and I know I keep saying hyperactive, but that's what it is. It's ad heavy. It's a media world that we've sort of transitioned to. We rely heavily on our screens. We rely heavily on all these things. Where as the credits, they felt honest and restrained, and they felt like they had me in mind without my dollar in mind, if that makes sense. And I wasn't being sold. It didn't feel like, at least it didn't feel like I was being sold something. It felt like I was being gifted something. Like these corporations were gifting me education. Whereas nowadays it feels like they're selling me something. And sometimes it just doesn't leave a good taste on the tongue. It makes you feel like they're a little desperate. But PBS in my entire 29 years of being here, I've never felt like I was being pushed, like an agenda was being pushed. And that in itself, thinking about that, gave me a renewed sense of appreciation, not only for the shows themselves, but the curators and the producers and the CPB. And it gave me a better understanding of their intentions. And in that, the renewal of said appreciation was definitely there. What about for yourself?
100%. I'd have to agree with you. And the main reason I agree is because when you're a kid and when you're young, you just basically want to get to your show. I mean, you see it, you know it. But it doesn't really hit you until later on when you can appreciate
when things have changed.
Yeah, because it's like, now I really appreciate what these people did, because we would not have Arthur, we would not have Mr.
Nope.
Rogers, we would not have PBS without these funders. We would not have PBS or any of the shows without them. And so I grew definitely a bigger appreciation. And like you said, especially today with a lot of these funders going away and a lot of this funding being pulled, And I think especially when you think about it in that regard, it's something that was there that you really couldn't get away from, but that you appreciated because of the fact that you realize that it made up the bulk and allowed your childhood to be your childhood.
Yeah. I know that we both currently watch, like, say, Arthur and just other PBS
100%.
shows. I watch it on Amazon Prime, and now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if they cut out the funding credits. Wherever you watch your PBS, do they still have the funding credits?
Yeah. Usually when I watch now when I watch on the PBS Kids app, they usually do strike them because of the fact that it's PBS Kids on that. I don't know about Amazon. I've never paid for Amazon's PBS Kids add-on.
I'll have to pay attention.
Exactly.
Or pay better attention, actually.
Yep. And I realize just how important the funding is. It's not just something that, we do to get a few extra dollars and whatnot. No, that's the budget for this show.
Yeah.
These are the people who basically are saying, we're putting Arthur on the air. We're putting all these other shows on the air.
Yeah.
And
it makes the playing field very even, because, education and quality TV should not just be for those who can afford it. It should be for everybody. And thinking back to these credits, the respect can even just come from that point of view.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wild to think, I got to be honest, I never thought that I'd be talking one day about appreciation for a 10-second collage of funders and credits. Most of the time people want to skip credits. They want to get around credits. They don't want to watch it. That's why Marvel introduced post-credit scenes to keep people in their seats to watch the credits and appreciate all the people who took to make this movie.
Yeah.
Well, PBS just comes right out and says, well, these are the people who are putting your show on the air. This is it,
Yeah.
And I think it's just so special, And I remember Bob Ross, they're fun. He gets funded by, places like Hobby Lobby, Michaels, obviously Artist Magazine, Watercolor Magic.
Whoa.
He was sponsored by some heavy hitters, Martin F. Weber, which is I think like an art company.
Oh, okay.
Who been manufacturing a lot of art products, and they were actually the ones who for the longest time gave the Bob Ross kits that had his actual oil colors.
Whoa, that's pretty cool. I would love a Bob Ross kit. That is awesome.
I had one as a kid and I painted with it. I'm not gonna lie, the oil paints stunk. So I learned
they
that.
always do.
Well, the reason is a lot of people thought that Bob Ross was an acrylic painter until they realized he uses a style called wet on wet, which is basically an oil style.
Oh, yes. Acrylic also doesn't give you that nice texture. It doesn't look 3D. And that's something that I feel like draws a lot of people to Bob Ross, because he doesn't use traditional paint brushes. He uses it sometimes, but he also doesn't use the traditional acrylic paint that you would assume.
Exactly. And then there was a period, and I can't remember this period. And the part that makes me so angry is my only VHS recording of it was damaged.
No.
And I cannot find any evidence of this. There was a time when his closed captioning was funded by his memorial fund.
Whoa.
And that's actually how my mom learned that he had passed away. My mom and my grandma learned that he passed away. Is at the end of one of the Bob Ross episodes, they said funding for closed captions is provided by Bob Ross's memorial fund.
Fundraising for closed captions provided by the Bob Ross Memorial Fund.
And my mom and my grandmother goes, "Oh my God, Bob Ross died." And my mom goes, "What?" And she goes, "They had a thing for his memorial fund on. He's gone."
Oh gosh. Oh man.
And one other thing I got to add about Bob Ross, just while we're on the topic, it's very random. Would you believe he was a drill sergeant?
No. What in the heck?
Yeah. I'm not even joking.
Spoken, gentle, seeming person.
Yes.
Persona.
Yes.
What?
Yes. He actually was in the military, and he actually was a drill sergeant. Yeah.
paint that tree.
I mean, he wasn't like Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket, but
Oh yeah,
apparently
yeah,
he helped train troops.
yeah.
So
Wow, wow! What a juxtaposition of his character that he presented to millions and millions of people, to what he did for for a career. That's insane.
and before people start asking and throwing in fluctuations, no, Mr. Rogers was not a military sniper. He was not in the military whatsoever. There's actually rumors of this. Have you ever heard of this?
No, never. I cannot imagine. I
There was a
cannot
rumor
imagine.
that went around for the longest time that said Mr. Rogers wore sweaters because he had tattoos on his arms from his days in the military and that he was a sniper. And he got into children's media because he couldn't handle all this other stuff.
Why do I want this rumor to be true?
I think a lot of people do, but no, it's
Oh,
not true.
man.
He was a minister.
Dang
He
it.
did good work, and yeah, so that's not true.
Although there is a 10-year span where it says NA not available
Oh my gosh.
on his record. That's
Oh
so funny.
man, that's wild. Yeah, that would
Oh,
actually
man.
be wild. But anyways, off that topic, the last question I
A
have
credit,
for-
but sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a
Yeah,
quick
go
second.
ahead, go ahead.
This episode is funded by the U.S. military.
Can you imagine? Well, I think with all the good, I believe with all the good stuff that they're doing out there, I would hope that plays into some of this. I mean that.
Imagine watching Arthur.
Yeah, funded by the U.S. military. Oh my God.
Oh man.
Like specifically,
Yeah,
like funded
specifically,
by
and then
the
you
army,
hear
the
the
Marines.
sniper.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I
Oh
can only
man.
imagine. I can
Oh
only
man.
imagine.
Thankfully, we were not in charge of what went in and out of the funding credits.
Thankfully not, because I
Yeah.
can only imagine the
can
crap we
only
would come
imagine.
up with.
Yeah, yeah.
And then last question I have for you is whenever they said viewers like you, did you ever feel special as a kid when they said that? Did you ever feel like they were talking to you specifically, especially when they would say thank you?
Because I took it very literally, I knew I wasn't presenting any money to them and I wasn't
Yeah.
funding them like monetarily.
Mhm.
I actually didn't really feel anything about it. It made me feel special in the way of them using funding credits from companies that I also used,
Yeah.
but I actually never felt like they were talking to me in that way of like,
Okay.
you're helping. But now as an adult, I realize how I was helping by just watching.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you have to watch the shows. I mean, that's how
Exactly.
the funding comes in. You have to watch the shows. I mean,
Exactly. What about you? Did you take it personally?
hell yeah, I did.
Hell yeah.
100% I did. I felt so special in that moment. I was like, thank you. You're actually thanking me.
Like, yeah, you're right. It is because of me.
Have you ever seen the meme? And I think I mentioned this in one of the episodes where it's a meme of Michael Scott with his old boss. And it says how
And
I felt as a kid. They're shaking hands. It says how I felt as a kid when they would say viewers like you, thank you.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
there's another one that just recently came out too. It says PBS is funded by viewers like you, thank you. And it's Binky doing the little salute from one of the episodes. From when I can't remember the episode, but Binky's doing this number. He's like saluting.
Oh man, oh man. I feel like now that my sense of humor has evolved, I absolutely would have seen myself that way as a kid. But because everything was so literal to me as a kid, if anything, I sort of felt bad for not paying. I was like, well, crap, should I start paying or something? I don't have any money. I'm a kid. I'm 7.
It's like I'm a kid, I'm 7, but at the same time, it's like, can I ask mommy and daddy to fund my shows?
Oh yeah, literally. Hey,
No.
mom, dad.
No, my parents have been funders of PBS for many years. They love the shows. They love what's going on, and we have Passport because of that as a result.
Oh, that's
of funding PBS directly. So,
I guess now I am because I do pay for the PBS extension, but I have no idea how much of that actually goes to PBS versus how much it goes to Amazon. So
yeah, I just choose, I just say, hey, this is how much I want to donate, and they're always so appreciative, and whenever they hold pledge drives, I try to donate a little bit, if I have a little bit here and there, especially when they're doing the Arizona pledge drives. Because the thing with every PBS station is each one is unique to the state they're in. For instance, we have KAET. somebody else might have, KPOS, or they might have,
Yeah.
something, another different local PBS station, WGBH, a lot of those different affiliates.
Gotcha. And like, say for someone like
WTA.
for like, or like myself, and say listeners who wouldn't really know how to go about donating, can you give us some advice on how to do that?
Yeah, it's really simple. You can just go to PBS's website even. They have a whole donate page right there, and you can just choose how much you want to donate, and you can go ahead and submit it. And then if you want, you can also add on to get PBS Passport, which is basically PBS's streaming service, so you can actually stream your favorite shows and favorite um your favorite stuff. So like for instance, like you can stream past PBS shows, like past American Masters episodes, past American Experience episodes, all of Ken Burns's libraries available to be streamed, and a lot of good stuff like that. And yeah, basically all you got to do is that you can call up PBS, and even if you call the wrong office there, they can obviously direct you to where you want to go. And usually it's funded locally, so that means like you can fund PBS exactly that way too, but you can also choose, like, I want it to go to KET, which is our local PBS affiliate, and say you want
Okay.
the donation to go to them, and then they'll be able to keep going because each one's independently funded by state.
Now, how amazing would it be years from now to turn on PBS and hear that it was funded by the help of the Rewind Room? How cool would that be?
Let's do it. I would
Let's
love
do
that
it.
one day.
That would be so cool.
Funding for Arthur. Funding for Arthur is well, Arthur's over. I forgot. Arthur's done. Never mind.
Well, Arthur Part 2.
Arthur all grown up.
All grown. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, you never know. You never know what the possibilities are. Funding for this program is provided by Rewind Room, the podcast that takes you back in time. PBS, hit us up. We will gladly help. We will gladly help.
Yes. And for those of you who are not familiar with PBS, we're glad that this episode is here to show you like the stepping stones of what public educational television was and where it started. And if you can contribute and if you can donate, please do. Like I said earlier, it's our responsibility to do so. So if you're not familiar with it and this is your introduction to PBS, look it up. Go on their website. Check out PBS Kids. It is well worth it.
There's also games on there you can play if you're into that thing.
Some of the best games too.
Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember? I was on Arthur's website all the time playing games. I remember playing the Movie Maker. I remember playing the Grocery Store Hunter. Sometimes I'd be eating dinner because I was hungry, and I'm just like food. And I'm just like, it's fun.
Man.
But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff on the website. And actually, I have an archived video of me playing it when I was a teenager, and I cringe at this because I was cussing so much playing the Don't Wait Cake game. I'll share that footage with, maybe I'll release it one day as like unofficial footage. But
do it
eventually, but I'll have to share it with you. But I was a teenager, I'm just like, because that thing is like, you have to basically the Don't Wait Kate was this game on PBS website. DW is trying to get water, and you have to score as many amounts of water as you can before you wake her up. There's no set limit. You just go as far as you can, and you just set new records. And basically, each step you take, there's an obstacle. So you have to choose a path, and you can't see what's in your path. So you have to choose it by blindness, and then you have to collect as many glasses of water as you can. But then it surprises you because you can't see what you're doing. Next thing you step on something, and it makes a noise. It's like, DW stepped on this. You have this many more tries left.
I'm sure there are websites out there that will allow us to
Wayback Machine.
Those. Oh,
I'm sure the Wayback Machine would help us, right?
Ooh, I'm not familiar with that. I will check that out.
Wayback Machine.
Plenty of games that no longer exist that I wish did exist.
And I don't think we'll need the Flash plug anymore because there's no such thing as Flash anymore.
No such thing as Flash, yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. Anyhow, my friend, I don't know about you, but should we get into our favorite part of this of every episode?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Ramona, you wanna tell us what's going on?
Well, folks, we have landed at that point of the of the podcast, the hidden segment that we like to call Fun Facts and Trivia.
Ow!
What a difference.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah. Please, we need to get that made at some point of the Blockbuster logo in that way, but it goes Fun
Let's
Facts
produce
and
it. Let's
Trivia.
do it.
Ow, what a difference. I would gladly do that. That would be incredible. So yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. But anyhow, I will start with some fun facts, and then you will start us with some trivia. So
blow my mind.
I'm excited. So here we go, folks. First fun fact I have up for you all. Some shows like Sesame Street had their own distinct credit music, a trumpet version of the theme, while others like Clifford the Big Red Dog had kids with specific personalities and or the actual voice actors narrate them.
That is so cool. You get a little piece of what you enjoy, reminding you. It's like breaking the fourth wall in the best way.
Exactly. Like I remember with Clifford, they had the voice actors for Cleo. Clifford was funded in part by a ready-to-learn grant from the U.S. Department of Education.
Clifford is funded in part by a ready-to-learn television cooperative agreement from the U.S. Department of Education through the Public Broadcasting Service.
And the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Can you imagine Cleo of all of the characters in Clifford?
I know.
I thought it'd be Clifford. I thought it'd be Emily Elizabeth. The one
I've heard Emily Elizabeth's
on the old ones, on the very old ones. Yeah.
Oh geez.
The one I really wish they got to do the funding credits was T-Bone's voice actor. Can you imagine that? Clifford was funded in part by a ready-to-learn grant. That would be incredible. Yeah. He did do the visit your local library at the end of Clifford. But
you know what? I do remember those as well. I remember.
You know,
those.
I forgot about those for a second. Those were also big. A lot of these would encourage you to go to your library and read books, especially ones that were based on books like Clifford by Norman Birdwell, or Arthur by Mark Brown.
Remember, you can find Arthur books and lots of other books too at your local library.
That's the reason I went to the library so much as a kid.
Same thing after reading Rainbow. I mean, if you think about it, most of these shows in one way or another were sort of encouraging kids. Well, not sort of, but were blatantly encouraging kids to read, to go out and read.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say we did the best job of it, but I mean, I tried. I read a lot with my mom as a kid. Yeah, we tried the best of our ability, but now I can say, I understand, I'll go in there and try not to look creepy and just get a children's book, just because I saw it on some show.
Yeah. It's interesting because you watch a show nowadays, and I don't think I've ever seen something say, hey, go to the library and read. If anything, they're like, hey, go touch grass. Put your tablet down, which is so sad.
Touch grass or else download our app.
Take your tablet outside, kids, and touch some grass.
Yeah, it's take your tablet outside, download our app, play on it, and then touch grass.
But then go back inside to charge your iPad.
I swear, people need to touch grass more nowadays. I don't know what it is.
About it.
I need to touch grass more.
Oh yeah, tell me. Me as I lock my door and play some video games after this.
Pretty much. No, exactly.
Anyway, that was a good one. That was a really good one.
So yeah, but I just remembered that from all that. But number 2, companies like Dunkaroos, Discovery, Gap, Danimals, and even Burger King sponsored shows like VeggieTales, kids songs. I didn't know VeggieTales aired on PBS.
Wow, I didn't either.
Zubumafu, Clifford, and shows of that nature. So it's like we said earlier, there were companies out there that would literally step up and be like, we'll fund the show. Big names. Just like some of the ones I just named and such. So it's absolutely wild. And Baby Gap was actually a big one for Arthur. I remember that was a huge one in some of the early seasons. Yeah. So I think I added some Arthur funding credits in there too at some point. But
and by Baby Gap.
Oh man, I wonder if they did any crossover merch. That would have been awesome. I never shopped at the Gap. It was a little bit too expensive for my taste.
And by the time I got into Arthur, I was long past Baby Gap.
That's a fair point. Yeah,
I needed real Gap. Yeah, I didn't shop at Gap either unless I was in like the Valley area, but
yeah.
Even then, I was more of like a JCPenney Dillard's person.
Yeah, I was definitely like Kmart, JCPenney, Walmart, factory to you.
Yep, exactly. And then number 3, The National Science Foundation, also known as the NSF, is a major funder for science-focused shows like Zoom, The Design Squad, and Nova,
Oh,
highlighting
wow.
PBS's educational mission. So yeah, for some of these shows that were more science-oriented, the National Science Foundation was a major one that helped them fund those. And eventually they would also help fund other PBS shows like even Reading Rainbow, I think Arthur eventually at some point and some other ones. Yeah, so
Well, tapping into literally the core beliefs as a human is to one, be curious, which science really just asks, it begs you to be curious. And I know you watch Zoom, but how many of you
course.
guys actually did the experiments in Zoom? I know I did.
I did 1000%. I even tried to cook some of the meals that they
Oh
made.
man, I did the egg drop experiment. Oh man, did I
You did the
fail?
egg drop?
Did I fail?
I did the tornado.
The tornado.
You
Remind
know
me
where
of
you
that
take
one.
like the two like soda 2-liter sodas and you put
Yup,
upside down
I did the
and you do
tornado
that.
too. Yup.
And number 4, many PBS Kids credits became pop culture staples due to their reputation, such as Chuck E. Cheese, where a kid can be a kid, Juicy Juice, 100% juice for 100% kids, and Post Alphabets, 26 little letters that make up a million words. Just saying that's flooding a million memories back into my head.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh man, I'm not even gonna lie to you. A couple of days ago, I had to
Yeah.
look up. I was for some reason having a craving for a Chuck E. Cheese pizza, and I had to look up.
Stop
Can
talking about
adults go
pizzas.
without having kids? And apparently, I can. So where a kid can be a kid, and where an adult can be a kid as well.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I hate you so much right now. I want pizza now.
Oh,
You do
I
not
hate
know how
myself so much
bad I
too.
want pizza.
I hate myself
right
too. I
now.
haven't had breakfast yet.
I haven't had breakfast either. All I've had is a Powerade that I'm drinking. I promise you, folks, it's Powerade. I'm not. I don't.
Breaking that hangover, huh?
Yeah, right. No, I actually do not consume alcohol. I've been sober for 5 months. So
Heck yes, my friend. Heck
yeah,
yes.
I'm very, very proud of that. Maybe I'll tell that story one day, but for now, that's all you're gonna get. But,
Yeah.
But basically, number 5, some shows have specialized funding groups. For example, American Experience is famously funded by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation and, of all companies, Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty. Yep.
I didn't realize Liberty Mutual was that old.
I didn't either. Well, the thing is, I think they recently started funding them more, so I don't think they funded them
I see.
going back as far. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, I think they are an older company. I know Farmers Insurance funded some of them.
Yeah.
I know.
I feel like State Farm did too.
State
or American
Farm,
Family Insurance.
American Family Insurance. They all did. They all funded
Yeah.
PBS at some point or another.
Yeah.
I always remember the iconic American Family Insurance.
Yeah, and then the red line, beep boop.
Yep.
I was actually gonna just a quick tangent. I was
Yeah,
actually
go
gonna ask you, do people outside of the country have something like PBS, or is PBS worldwide?
I have to be honest, I don't really know, but I know many of the shows get broadcasted overseas.
So
like,
for those of you who live outside of the United States, please let us know what shows you guys have access to, and if you guys also watch shows with funding credits as well.
absolutely 100%. If you guys have something similar, please let us know, because I think some of them, like Mr. Rogers and so those, like let's say in England, they just get broadcasted through BBC, I think, but I don't.
Okay.
I gotta be honest, I really don't know. I wish I knew the answer. I wish I had looked this up more, but yes, please, if you live outside the US, please let us know. We'd love to hear.
I could only hope that everyone outside of the US has the opportunity to experience something like PBS.
100%, and I would hope so too, but I'm glad the shows are at least making it over there, because I know Arthur's broadcasted over there. I know Mr. Rogers is, and I know a lot of those shows. Or Sesame Street has made worldwide. So every country has kind of their own version, but has the similar gist and the similar nature of it. So yeah, it's really cool. But anyhow, my friend, I would like you now to how do I say this? I know if I say it the way I was going to say it, people are going to start pointing fingers at me. Please blow my mind, my friend.
All right. So Number 1, and I have 5. Some PBS funding credits were voiced by professional actors who also narrated documentaries for NASA and the Smithsonian, meaning your Saturday morning kids show intros shared talent with historic space launches and museum films. How cool is that?
Wow, I wish I would like to know some of the names if I could, to see if I can put them to, kind of identify who's saying some of the funding credits. That
Yeah,
would
I'll
be.
see if I can actually find some of the footage itself of these actors and whatnot and put it on the Instagram.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be really cool. And I'd like to hear too, see if maybe when I watch like some of the other PBS stuff that I watch, maybe if I can link up who's doing what.
Yeah, absolutely. All
Hmm.
right, for my second one, the music in PBS funding credits was sometimes composed using scientific data like oscillations from atomic clocks or brainwave patterns to create a subtly calming, almost hypnotic effect on viewers. How cool
Wow.
is that? It's like we were the
Wow.
experiment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really cool. It's interesting. I mentioned this to you, I think, before we started recording, but I think Nova played into this at one point or another.
Whoa,
Because I know one of the
yeah.
things is that, if the very first season of Nova, which goes back, I think, to like the 60s or 70s, just had this very high guitar hum that basically just went, and then the guy was just reading the funding credits.
Nova is funded by Carnegie Corporation of New York, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, National Science Foundation.
It's a little creepy, but I mean, I love it now. I think it's the most nostalgic thing, and I wish that more PBS programs would be experimental like that again.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And you don't really think about literally every facet of the shows and even the funding credits being in a way educational, whether it's through science, whether it's through emotion, whatever. It's so cool that even the music was tailored to our a learning experience.
yeah, I think that's incredible. That's wild.
Yeah. So for my third, during pledge drives in the 1980s, some PBS stations actually tracked which funding credit music or phrasing led to the most donations, making credits a secret,
What?
data-driven fundraising tool.
What?
We're the
Okay,
experiment, guys. We are
so
the
so
experiment.
they would actually track to see who would actually respond better to this kind of funding credit versus this other one.
Yeah, it's their own version of SEO data analytics that really just went over everyone's heads. So
Can you
for
imagine?
my fourth, certain long-running shows kept the exact same funding credit graphics for decades, meaning kids in the 1970s and 90s saw the same silent patterns, creating one of the longest visually continuous experiments in television history. And I keep saying the
Wow.
word experiments because that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
How amazing is
100%.
it that and you even mentioned this yourself while watching, say, Reading Rainbow or uh what am I thinking of? Yeah, I think that was the example you
Yeah.
stated earlier. You could see the 1970s funding credits. It's a little bit of nostalgia that you get to experience, which is awesome.
Exactly. And like it may look bland because it's just in front of like a green screen with like white text, but I mean the fact that it had that kind of music is incredible.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's the
yeah.
little things sometimes add up and make the most.
The details. Exactly, my friend. And then for my final fun fact, there was a time when some local PBS stations credited their janitors and volunteers alongside corporate
Oh
sponsors
yeah.
in the funding role, an unpublicized nod to the people keeping the station alive behind the scenes. How amazing is that?
That's
Oh
that's
man,
that's impressive, I have to
so
say.
community
I think
based.
if I can remember properly, I think some of Ken Burns' America, the original broadcasts of that, I think they do remove it from the DVDs, but like the Brooklyn Bridge, the Statue of Liberty, the Shakers, the Congress, Thomas Hart Barton, Empire of the Air, all of those I think did that for a while. And then when
Whoa.
Ken Burns started doing bigger things, obviously like the Civil War and jazz, national parks, the war, all those, I think they kind of moved away from that, but definitely you can
Whoa.
kind of see it. But I mean, I still think it's really cool.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, not to be specific, I mean, saying viewers like you or viewers like us is very general, yes, but to actually thank the people that are behind the scenes that are usually overlooked is a great thing. It's a really great thing. You don't really see that
Mhm.
often.
And I think it's wonderful that they do that because then they include the audience acknowledging that, hey, it's because of your donations as well that we stay afloat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in my opinion one of the most humbling things, not only for us, but it's a very humble thing to do as well. Because they could easily go the other route and be like, "Thank you, Juicy Juice, for giving us money. Now buy Juicy Juice."
Exactly. 100%. I was about to say the exact same thing.
Yeah. But that actually leads us to our second favorite part of the podcast, and that's trivia. Do you mind if I start us off?
Take it away, my friend.
Heck yeah. Okay. So they stumped me, but I know that you are more well versed than I am when it comes to PBS and PBS funding credits.
I don't know. Sometimes I do end up getting a little bit nervous, and sometimes I do end up stumping a little bit. So you never know.
Me too. But hey, we're human. It's okay. That's
Absolutely.
something that PBS taught us.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right. To get us started, my first question out of 5. What federal law governs the restrictions on how PBS funding credits are presented?
What law restricts?
Governs the restrictions.
Governs the restrictions. Okay.
Yeah.
And you said it's an act?
I just said what federal law governs the restrictions.
Law. Okay.
Yeah.
Only one I can think of off the top of my head. I know I'm going to get this wrong probably.
Don't doubt yourself. You got it.
Is it the Public Funding Act?
That's close. That's really close.
I'm close?
But I actually don't know if that is what it is called, but this is just another name. But
Okay.
It's the Public Broadcasting Act.
The Public Broadcasting Act. Did I say
Yeah.
Public Act or what did I say?
Public something act.
I thought I said Public Broadcasting Act.
You could have.
Okay. I thought that, but anyways, the Public Broadcasting Act, I was going to say.
Yeah. Of 1967.
Then I mentioned that earlier. That's why I said, is it the Public Broadcasting Act? So.
Oh, okay.
What did I say?
I don't know. It wasn't the Public Broadcasting Act, though.
Okay, I need a replay of this.
Yeah.
We need a replay of this. Is it the Public Funding Act?
Is it the Public Funding Act?
All right.
Okay,
So
very cool.
number 2, what term does PBS use instead of advertising for its sponsor acknowledgments?
Is it just the credits at the beginning and end of each show, or is there something deeper I'm missing?
Apparently, there's a name for that.
There's a name for that.
Yeah.
And it's not just funding credits, I take it.
No.
Okay.
No.
I
I didn't know this. This sort of blew my mind, and I'll give you a little background on it too.
Okay. So it's a proper name, then I take it.
Yes. Which makes sense because they really wanted to deviate from the idea of pushing, which is exactly what advertising does.
Is it like complimentary? I don't know. I'm just gonna guess. Underwriting.
Yeah.
How did I not pick that up?
So
underwriting.
Yeah, and I had no idea what this term meant.
Okay. I totally missed that then.
So it's underwriting on PBS is the term used for sponsor acknowledgments instead of commercials. And unlike typical ads, underwriting must avoid direct calls to action, pricing, or promotional language, keeping the focus on recognizing support rather than selling a product. So that's one of the reasons why underwriting is one of the reasons why we don't feel pushed or we don't feel like there's an agenda. It's psychological. They do it on purpose.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. I do
Yeah.
not know how I didn't think of underwriting. I think it's because it's a term I don't think of or use that often.
Yeah, we don't use it that often, actually. Yeah.
Okay,
And
underwriting.
to this day, I don't know if underwriting is still relevant.
I mean, I would hope, but
I would hope, yeah. Alrighty, number 3. Which children's PBS program is most associated with the phrase "viewers like you"?
which show?
Yeah, children's PBS.
Children's
program.
PBS show. It felt like it was on all of them. That it's hard to single out just one.
Yeah, and I think the best way to go about that hint wise is to think about one of the longest running PBS kids shows.
Oh, now I'm caught because there's 2 I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, you can say both of them, and I know you're going to still get it.
Okay, I'm going to say both, but I'm not going to lock in my final answer just yet. Okay.
Okay. And I'm not going to react.
Okay. It's okay. It's okay. I think it's either Arthur or it's Sesame Street. It's got to be one of those two because those are two of the longest running ones.
Well, I'll tell you that you absolutely said the answer.
I
now.
said the answer. Okay.
Yes.
Now I just got to play any, mini, miny, mo and figure out which one it is.
Well, think of which one is older.
Oh, that's easy. Sesame Street.
Yep. Ding, 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 ding. You got it. You got it.
Let's go.
Heck yes. Let's go. Okay.
I was going to say,
4.
yeah. Okay.
You got, oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that the reason I was thinking about, the reason I said Arthur is because I know that was huge. But I was like, wait, Sesame Street is way older. Like,
yes.
And the thing is, Mr. Rogers never did say the viewers like you on it. So
he didn't?
No, it wasn't until like the early 2000s that they would go, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, we thank you. And that was it.
So like for 30 to 40 years, it wasn't said in the post credits or in the funding credits.
No,
That's
it was
insane.
not. And one other thing too about Mr. Rogers is I did find, and I remembered this just now, that on I think the East Coast, he was funded by a brand of restaurants that was out there called Eaton Park.
Eaton Park.
That's what it's called, yeah. And it actually has this like Louis Armstrong type jingle that goes,
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is brought to you on WQED by the employees of Eaton Park.
Eaton Park, the place for smiles.
And they're famous for their smiley face cookies, apparently.
Oh man, I want a smiley face cookie. That sort of reminds me of Sonic. You know, you park, you eat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. I don't know if they exist anymore, though, unfortunately.
Oh, dang it. Well, for those of you listeners who live on the East Coast, definitely let us know if you visited there and if they're currently still available.
Yeah, and I don't think they're just available on the East Coast, but I think they're available in a few other places. But Eaton Park, from what I understand, yeah, because I remember that's where they were that's where certain broadcasts of Mr. Rogers were funded by them. So,
nice. All right, are you ready for number 4?
Let's hear number 4. Sorry about that.
No, don't even worry. Don't apologize. Why are PBS funding credits often placed before and after programs rather than during them?
I think mostly because, for one, they want to I think it's because mostly, like, if it's during the show, then it's like you interrupt it and whatnot and such. So I feel like it's majorly at the beginning and end because it kind of bookends it and it kind of gives it a way to kind of like, you still get to see it no matter if you started the show or ended the show, and it allows you to watch the show and interrupt it. Am I correct?
Ding, ding, ding. Exactly.
Oh, let's
because
go.
It, rather than interrupting the flow of the educational content, they felt that it was easiest to do it before and after, and it helps comply with those underwriting rules that they had to abide by. Because again, they're not selling you anything, they're not advertising, and they're not pushing. So it's just a subtle little message that they would do before and after, so that you wouldn't, so that your programming would not be interrupted. Exactly what you said, John.
All right, awesome. And then real quick before that too, one other thing I noticed is the only time I think they'd interrupt in the middle of the show is if they were running a pledge drive.
Oh, and then let us know and then remind me what a pledge drive is.
Pledge drive basically is when, so let's say you're watching a show and they're running like a donation drive, basically, in a sense, basically saying like, if you're enjoying this episode of Arthur, please consider donating to your local PBS station. And somebody will speak about it, and then PBS will talk about all the perks they have and the things that they're giving away. Let's say if you donate this much money, we'll send you an Arthur t-shirt. Let's say Arthur's the show that's on. We'll send you this Arthur t-shirt along with maybe,
that's so cool.
If you donate this amount of money, we'll send you the Arthur shirt plus a box set of like 5 episodes from this series. If you donate this much, we'll send you the box set with it.
Oh, that is so
pledge
cool.
drive would run, and then in the background, they give you a number that you can call, and you can call that number and then basically make a donation. And behind them are the people taking those calls.
Oh, whoa. So like a booth of people just literally on call, quite literally, with a bunch of
and that's
rotary phones in front of them or something.
Yeah, NPR does it too. They've done that for many years as well, and whatnot. So I think it's amazing that these opportunities exist. But please, let's go with number 5.
Yes, and for the final trivia question on my end, which organization distributes federal funding that often appears in PBS funding credits? This is the hardest question you're ever going to get in the entire
Oh my
podcast, my
gosh.
friend. So
Is it?
really put on your
Yeah,
thinking
let me.
cap.
Okay, I got my cap right here. Let me think about this. Is it one of the most important federal funders of all time? Are they a corporation and do they help with public broadcasting? Is it the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, my friend?
Oh man. Ding ding ding, you
I was
got
gonna-
it.
Yeah.
Imagine I hype you up just
That would be awful if that was
to
the
get
that
it
was
wrong. My God.
I'm
You
ending this
got it, my
dang show
friend.
right now. Let's
You
go.
got it. You got it.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. All right, now stump me, man. I know I'm not going to get any of these, so please show me some grace.
I'll try. I'll try. Well, here's some grace I shared. There's a couple bonuses for this first one, so you have an opportunity at 7 points today.
Oh man, I'm hoping for one. Hoping for one.
Okay. Okay. I'm not expecting you to get every one of these, but we will
I'm not
see
either.
what you eat. We'll see what you get.
Okay.
I just want you to give your best guesses on each of these.
Okay.
Who were the funders of Arthur's very first season? Hint, there are 4 of them, and one of them is one we've been talking about this entire time. And it may have been the answer to the last question.
Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Okay. You mentioned Danimals, but I don't know how old Danimals is. Shoot. So I would have to name all 4.
Yeah, there's only 4 of them, and
so I named one already.
Yeah, so now let me give you another hint.
That Irving one, I can never remember the entire name.
Irving.
No, Irving. I can't remember. I have no idea. I'm gonna have to put up my white flag for this question.
Okay, you got one of them with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. You forgot Viewers Like You.
I was thinking about okay.
You forgot Viewers Like You. That was one of them.
Okay.
Okay.
I always thought that was just a statement that they said.
I always include it.
Okay.
It's a statement, but it's more important than a statement, I feel like. So
gotcha. Okay.
I include it as a funding credit. So
okay.
The next one is, do you just want me to give you the rest?
Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna get them.
The next one is the National Endowment for Children's Educational Television, and the last one is the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation.
Vining, not Irvine. Vining, that one. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a mouthful, so it's hard for me to remember that one. Okay, that's a great question.
And then here's the 2 bonuses. Who were their first corporate sponsors? And we talked about both of them.
First corporate sponsors.
There's 2 of them.
Sears.
Nope.
Corporate sponsors.
We just literally talked about them too.
Oh man. Oh yeah, I have no idea.
100% juice for 100% kids.
Juicy. God dang it, man.
And Baby Gap.
Oh, Baby Gap. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have remembered Baby Gap.
The reason I separated...
I said Juicy Juice a million times in this freaking episode. What the heck?
And the thing is that's funny is that when I separate them, because corporate sponsors are more of those outside companies, the big companies like Juicy Juice, Gap, those ones that come in. Whereas the funders, I was looking more... I probably should have made this more clear, but I was looking for more of like the actual like people just kind of funding an organization.
Gotcha. Okay. I think regardless, my mind still would have went blank.
Okay. Number 2. Who was Ken Burns' major sponsor from the 90s till 2009? And think about it this way. It's something that transports us everywhere, every day to our location needs. And it's not a bus service, I'll say that.
Is it that the motor...
You're getting there.
I don't know what because the only thing that comes to mind is General Motors, but you
Ding, ding, my friend.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
General Motors.
Okay, I didn't know because you had mentioned another motor thing, and I
Yeah.
completely forgot what that was. So, okay, well, I got one.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll
you
take
got
that. I'll
one,
take that.
absolutely. So
Now everything else is just a bonus to me. I got the one
yes.
that I wanted.
Yes, General Motors was a major sponsor of Ken Burns for all his documentaries until 2009 after his docu-series The National Parks, and they pulled out citing financial difficulties.
For over a decade, General Motors has been the sole corporate sponsor of the films of Ken Burns.
That makes sense. General Motors has had a history of financial difficulties, to say the
100%.
least. Yeah.
Henceforth, why I would say go with a Toyota, a Subaru, or a Honda.
Honda. I have a Honda.
You have a
CR-V.
Honda. Yeah, exactly. So, yes, General Motors is the correct answer. So, yes.
Okay. Well, you gave me a wonderful hint. I really appreciate it. I would not have gotten it without you.
Okay. Number 3, dead giveaway. You should be able to get 2 points.
Oh, whenever you say that, I get it wrong. Okay, go ahead.
What PBS show was sponsored by Barnes & Noble and barnesandnoble.com from 1993 to 2003? You were all happy about this when we started.
Okay, so it's not Arthur, obviously, because Arthur was late 90s. So it either has to be Reading Rainbow or Sesame Street, and I think it's Reading Rainbow.
Ding, ding, ding. It is Reading Rainbow.
Okay.
This one was iconic with my childhood because they started sponsoring right around the time I got into Reading Rainbow.
Oh,
and basically the ad was it would start and it was a kid at night under his bed reading books with a flashlight.
Oh, man.
And
that's iconic.
I mean, come on, let's be real. Who didn't do that in some way, shape, or form? If it wasn't a book, it was something...
Game Boy or something.
A Game Boy or something, yeah, doing that late. And his mom comes in and says, Timmy, lights out. And he quickly lays down and he tries to turn it back on after he thinks his mom's gone. She goes, Timmy. And then the voice comes over and it says, Reading Rainbow was made possible by Barnes & Noble and barnesandnoble.com for minds at play as the moon rises.
Oh, man. I remember. You just unlocked a core memory, my friend.
You remember this now?
I remember it now. Oh, man. He had like a blue blanket over him.
Yeah, he had like a blue blanket. He had like a fish tank aquarium thingy going.
Oh, man. Yeah, you just unlocked a memory. That's
you know what?
I'm gonna put that on the Instagram.
We're going to put that on Instagram. And guess what, folks? Take a listen right now.
Timmy, lights out. Timmy.
Reading Rainbow is made possible by Barnes & Noble and barnesandnoble.com for minds at play.
Okay, number 4. Here we go. So, number 4, what PBS kids show was sponsored by Target around 2005 to 2009? And I'm going to say this, folks. Y'all are probably going to be pissed at us when you hear this one.
Let's see.
And you could take that as a hint as well.
Gonna be pissed. Can you give me a reason why they would be pissed? Why people would be pissed?
Let's
or
just
would
say
that give it away?
It might give it away a little bit, but I'll just put it this way. How the hell do I put this? Your hint is little kid.
Target. Little kid. Caillou?
Yes, there you go.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. Okay. I thought, what kid pisses people off the most?
Exactly.
Caillou.
Yes, exactly. So Caillou was sponsored by Target as a part of their Read to Kids So Kids Can Read campaign, which would also eventually sponsor Reading Rainbow.
Oh, man. Okay. What an image. Okay.
Yeah, Caillou was sponsored by Target.
Wow. Okay.
We have a very interesting history with Caillou. We can say that.
Yeah.
We have a very, very interesting history, which maybe we'll share one day, but
yeah,
that's a conversation for another day.
Let's just say my attention span definitely did suffer because of Caillou.
A little bit. Yeah, I'll admit that. And number 5. This is one you can name any one of these and you'll get the answer right. I'm not looking for a specific answer, but you can name a multitude of these. We mentioned many of them throughout the series. We talked about one even in the first one. We talked about them throughout this entire episode. My question to you is, name a popular PBS grant or fund.
Gosh darn it.
You only got to name one. You can say any one of them, and most likely you'll get it right. And when I say that, I'm not looking, let me give you another little piece of info. I'm not looking for a corporation, so we cannot say things like Juicy Juice, Sears, Baby Gap, none of that kind of stuff. Just an actual sponsored grant or fund.
Viewers like you?
You know what? I'll take that. I will take that. I will take that. I will take that. And here's why. Because technically that is a funding grant because it's our pockets.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay. So the answer
that not an answer. What would the real answers be?
Okay. The reason, okay, I will take that as an answer, but you only had to name one. You could have said Carnegie Corporation. You could have said Arthur Vining Davis. You could have said National Science Foundation. You could have said the Pew Charitable Trust. You could have said any one of those.
Yeah,
and you would have had the answer
escaped
correct.
My mind.
Or you could have even said National Endowment for Children's Educational Television. You could have said Park Foundation.
Woulda, shoulda, gosh.
You could have said any one of those, and you would have had the correct answer. But I will take viewers like you because technically that does fall in with it.
Oh man, that's too funny. Those are mouthfuls. I'll have to study those to remember those. That's funny.
Yeah, they are for sure. I wasn't expecting you to get any of those, but
I wasn't either.
I'm talking about those last ones, but yeah, but I'm glad you got I'm glad you got two of them.
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, you got three because you got Caillou.
Caillou coming in clutch. Let's go. Let's go Canada.
I think you beat me actually.
Oh man, I would be lying if I told you I was keeping score, which is not, on brand for me because I always keep score, but here, let me see.
You know what? It's almost into the year. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. We all get 25 points.
Okay,
we get 25 points each.
Okay, let's do it. Okay.
Next year we'll end at 26.
Yep. And segment. Okay, now we're on to our last segment. Wow, great fun facts and trivia segment. I think that was great. We actually this was the longest one, I think.
Yeah. A couple of tangents I'm sorry about, but fun nonetheless.
I sure ain't, but
heck yeah.
Anyhow, for PBS funding, we look at now why is PBS funding important? And I think there's so many answers for that, but I want to start really with why is it so important to not only PBS, but the audience, and I think that's a big thing because I think really when it comes to the audience, I've said this throughout the entire episode, without funders, there's no PBS, period. You don't have PBS. You don't have all these shows really without the funding that you get. And also I think really, also PBS Kids, none of that would really exist without the funders. The funders are really PBS at the end of the day.
Well, when it comes to shows that we know and love, a lot of them pass the pilot and they pass season 1 and they're giving these big contracts because of viewership ratings, and you take that away with the public broadcasting system because it is created by the creator for the audience without this expectation of meeting, viewership, views, engagement, this or that. You think now, like for the younger generation, if you watch a video on Instagram Reels or on TikTok, the only way for you to know that it's doing well is if it has 100,000 likes and 100,000 comments and a million shares. But public television like PBS relied on your dollar rather than on your opinion. And granted, you had to have an opinion about it in order to donate your dollar, but its livelihood didn't rely on that. And the importance of that really just makes it an art form and not a form of money retention. It's all based on benefiting the viewer rather than the executive producer or the studio or the this or the that. It comes from a place of wanting the audience to have a background in education, in culture, in children's and adult programming that is there by the people, as I've said before, for the people. And that alone is one of the reasons why it's important. But there are a plethora of other reasons as to why it's important.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. I mean, you listed some amazing reasons right there. And, really, you went far deeper than I ever could have with that. But I 100% agree with everything you said. Really, at the end of the day, they're making these shows, just because they want to do some good in the world, because they want people to have a good education, and because they want people to also be entertained. They
As
really
simple
go
as that.
they really go
Literally.
above and beyond for so much, and unfortunately, we just don't see a lot of that nowadays.
No.
And PBS is one of the few that's still trying to go with that, and I think that's what makes them so impressive, and that's why funding is absolutely so important, because they need the funding in order to keep up with their mission.
Key word on trying, because it's a multifaceted business. At the end of the day, everything is a business, and we are actually a part of that equation. It is, as I've said many times throughout this episode, that it's our responsibility, because at the end of the day, you take us away, PBS won't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You take us out of the equation, then PBS doesn't exist. It's like, okay, yeah, like I said earlier, yeah, of course, without funding, PBS doesn't exist, but it really wouldn't exist without us, because somebody has to be watching, somebody has to be enjoying, and somebody has to be learning in order for the funding to actually work. So that's a beautiful statement, my friend.
I also can't really imagine where we would be media-wise for kids television or even for adult programming without PBS. Like, where would cable networking be without PBS?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to be honest with you. I don't really see it having the same evolving pattern that it did.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're gonna always have television. You're always gonna have channels, but it evolved in such an interesting way that even actual cable channels like Nickelodeon formed channels like Nick Jr., subsidiaries that have more shows focused on actual education and learning. Like, Blue's Clues, Dora the Explorer, Go
Little
Diego
Bill.
Go, Little Bill,
Franklin, Little Bear,
Franklin, Little
Kipper.
Bear. I forgot about Kipper.
He's Kipper the dog.
Boom, 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 Kipper the dog. You know what's funny is when PBS rebranded to PBS Kids Sprout, they actually aired Kipper, and that's where I first saw Kipper.
Oh man, I loved Sprout. Oh man.
Yeah. I know they really watered it down for like really young kids, but it was still fun.
But
They have
still,
the
it
same
was great
shows.
TV. Great TV.
I only wish that shows like Arthur and Mr. Rogers made over, but I think Arthur got lumped in with PBS Kids Go because it was seen as more for like older kids.
No, that is true. Because
because Sprout I think focused more on like the younger kid shows, so like Barney was still on there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Barney was on there, I think. Yeah.
Kipper was on there. A lot of those were on there, but at the same time, Berenstain Bears were on Sprout. I think Zaboomafoo made it to Sprout for a little bit in rerun form, but a lot of those were still like that. But then the other thing though is that shows like Arthur, Postcards from Buster, they got lumped in, Maya Miguel, they got lumped in with PBS Kids Go because obviously they targeted an older demographic. Because you watch Arthur, there's no way you're going to put that on for kids when they're using words like stupid and words.
Oh yeah. I remember I was watching Arthur. I think I was like 10 or 11 and he happened to say the word stupid in one of the episodes, or someone did, and my dad, he exploded. He's like, "What are you watching? Why are you?" And in the back of my head, I was like, "Arthur's so innocent. I've been watching this since I was like 4 or 5, But you're right. It did target like the ages from like 7 to 12,
Yeah.
Given the language. I guess I never really thought about that. That's interesting.
You can say the same for like Maya and Miguel. Because it's about kind of transitioning into adolescence,
Yeah. I think they were like 12 in the show, and Arthur was like 8 in his show.
Yeah, exactly. And you have a lot of those kind of shows, and they're targeting a bit of an older demographic, so they get lumped in with the PBS Kids Go brand, which I haven't got any qualms about. It's great. I think still that they have that.
Yeah.
But really now looking too at an age where funding is going away or being pulled, how has the dynamic of viewers like you evolved or changed? Because I think really now it's gonna take on a whole new meaning than it ever has before.
Yeah. The phrase, as you know, it still exists, but the meaning behind it and the relationship we as viewers have has absolutely changed. Not only are we engaging in the media, we are actively participating in not only the resurgence of this type of media, but also keeping it alive. Like, we are actively being begged in one way or another to keep it alive through, as Jonathan was saying, you could do it through memberships, like with the PBS Passport, with the digital donations, with supporting streaming. We are now in an age where viewers like you holds a deeper and more heavy meaning, because
Yeah.
in reality we can't really rely on those big corporations anymore, because viewers like you is becoming quite more literal as the days go by, especially here now in 2025. Well, the end
Yeah.
of 2025.
Yeah, no, 100%, and especially with like, obviously Corporation for Public Broadcasting going away
Yeah.
and so many of these other funds going away, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, really, it now really does become about viewers like us. It really becomes, we're now going to have to be responsible for keeping these shows on the air, for allowing new shows to come in,
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, I think, thought when they first heard about this, PBS getting defunded, they thought, oh, PBS has got to be going away. But no, they're like,
That's what
no,
I thought at first.
yeah, I know. You were actually, when we were talking about putting this episode together, you were afraid that you were like, let's do it as a PBS tribute because PBS is going away. I'm like, PBS isn't going away. Only the CBB is going away. But
Thankfully, though, because
yeah.
propaganda, and you have all this false information circulating, either Instagram, Facebook, wherever you get your social media fix. Everyone is going to extremes, saying like, say goodbye to Dragon Tail, say goodbye to your childhood, because it's no longer going to exist. They spread this rhetoric that made it seem so extreme that I couldn't help but believe it too. But upon talking to you and then further research, I was able to obviously take a breath and then realize that that wasn't the case. But if anything, it shined a light on the area that a lot of people don't fixate or even think about. The fact that now the responsibility lies on the viewers themselves.
100%, but it also gives us a little bit more power too, because now we can actually say this is the kind of shows we want to see. These are the kind of things we would like out of the PBS, because now we're funding it. So now hopefully maybe they'll listen to us too a little more in the regard of that, because when we start putting money toward it, then they probably start thinking, what do you guys want to see?
Yeah. Well, which maybe one could say, find a silver lining and think that this is a positive route that, we're going as viewers, and that the PBS is going to. That way, we refocus on the type of education that is beneficial, rather than, the hyperactive, loud colors that we see nowadays with children's
Or the
programming,
messages they're trying to push.
or the messages. Exactly. Like, maybe we can, this will allow us to take a step back and really reevaluate where we are when it comes to children's programming, adult programming, and then maybe reconstruct it and redefine it so that we get back on track to putting children and putting adult needs first, rather than the dollar bill.
100%. And, I think too, one of the most interesting things, and one thing I want to bring up too really quick before we move on to our next point, is another thing I thought of that's also kind of nostalgic. Do you remember at the end of every episode, they'd say, visit us online at pbskids.org if you want to play games with us or something like that? I feel like that also was kind of special too. Now, those were only on the broadcast. Those did not make it to the home media and DVDs. So that made it even more special to say, for more for more of this, visit our website, for that and stuff like that. So I remember that. But anyways, I just had to bring that up really quick. Sorry about that. But obviously we talk about the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. I think this is a perfect way to segue into this. It's kind of like, how will this impact PBS and actually just television in general, with the fact that one of their biggest funders is now going away? I think there's going to be a massive impact for sure. I think quality and quantity is going to go down for sure. And I think that I really think it's going to be a very different kind of setup, and I'm definitely going to miss seeing the Corporation for Public Broadcasting as a logo on every one of my shows. How do you feel about this?
Unfortunately, for those of you who live in the United States, you guys know this all too well. And those of you who are not in the United States probably also know this a little too well as well, that we don't really prioritize education in this country. And
Yeah, sadly.
unfortunately, there are many cities, towns, and even states that suffer when it comes to funding for public education and just in education in general. We are not an education forward country. As many of you live in denial and think that I am talking out of my butt, that is just the plain truth. And unfortunately, the people who are going to suffer the most, unfortunately, as it always has been through the tale of time, through history, and even now noted in everyday reminders of politics and of whatever you want to talk about, the people that are going to suffer the most are the people who can't pay for it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, local stations are going to suffer because, especially local stations in rural areas and in smaller towns where funding isn't necessarily funding for something like this isn't necessarily at the forefront of their priorities. Unfortunately, they are the ones who are going to have the reduction in voice, in local voice at that. They're going to have a reduction in educational programming, and they're going to have a reduction in public media landscape by only being introduced to what suits their governance. And unfortunately, whenever it comes to anything educational, if there's a dollar sign behind it, the people who suffer the most are the people, unfortunately, who are not in the place to be able to fend for themselves financially. And unfortunately, a lot of those people don't recognize how they're being influenced and how they are being affected negatively. And unfortunately, there's really nothing anyone can do. And not to sound bleak or anything, but without donations and without the helping hand of the neighbor, it's going to be those people who continue to suffer in this world and in this country.
Yeah, it sucks, and I agree with you 100%. But, the thing I also do notice too is sometimes those people who don't have enough or cannot give, I often notice are usually the ones who are giving to a lot of these stations as well. And you
Absolutely.
you have to admire that as well. It really says something about the demographic that you were just describing. The people who can't afford, the people who can't do it. It's kind of like when you look at all these donations and you're looking at all these letters and all these amounts of money, these are people who do not have the money to do it, but they still do it because
Absolutely.
and you're going, why? It's because they care.
Because they care.
It's
Yeah.
because they want good quality educational content, and they want something that's going to help better our future, and they want something also that's entertaining, and you put all three of those in a lump. That's what the people really want. I feel like that's what I want. At least I can only
Yeah.
speak for myself, obviously, and I know
Mhm.
it's the same with you. But I mean, I feel like from what I've seen and from the stats I've seen, that's what we noticed. I've
Yeah, and
noticed
then
at least.
without the external help, though, you have these families who are put in tough situations to begin with, having to decide whether or not they want light for the next month or they want to help support public broadcasting. American families and many families throughout the world, as privileged as it seems, are put in a position to where they have to really prioritize certain things over the other. And unfortunately, a lot of times education is put on the back burner for the sake of survival. And I can't imagine how it feels to be put in that position. But there are going to be millions of Americans, unfortunately, put in that position to where they have to think, oh, well, I guess our kids can live without PBS, as long as we're able to eat this week or eat this month. And that's rightfully so. That makes sense. You
Yeah.
have to make those decisions. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, you're also impacting negatively the people around you. You're impacting yourself. And there's really no right way to go about it. Even thinking about it is
Yeah.
really hard to think about in a positive way.
Yeah.
Because it reduces us to those who can and those who can't. And life is more nuanced than that. And it boils my blood.
No,
Really
exactly. I
boils my
mean, it's kind
blood.
of like, well, when you look at it, like you were saying, it's kind of like a choice between, do I fund PBS or do I eat? Of course, you're going to choose eat. Eating,
Yeah.
it's survival, You
Yeah.
have to eat. But of course, it's kind of like also like, should it come at that expense of having to make that kind of a decision? And
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate part, and that's the sad thing about it. And that's why companies like Corporation for Public Broadcasting were so helpful because,
Mm-hmm.
it allowed those who couldn't give to focus on what they need for their lives, and it allowed
Mm-hmm.
others, especially who could, to help get those extra dollars in and help get those other means in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and whatnot. And obviously the future of PBS, I don't want to sound bleak, but I mean, I don't think it will be what it really was ever again. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think there could definitely be people who could come in, and who knows what the future of how things evolve, who gets elected, who gets put in those higher
Mm-hmm.
seats. It could make a comeback in some way, but the way I look at it is it's going to take years for that to happen again. I mean, really,
Yeah.
if you look, let's say, okay, let's say in the future something happens and they're like, oh, Corporation for Public Broadcasting can start back up again. It's going to take years for them to get back to where they were. It's not just like,
Yeah.
oh, we can turn on the light switch and, oh, guess what, guys, we're back. I mean, it
Yeah.
comes with consequences, really, and
Yeah.
it takes time to build a corporation like that, and it's not just
Yeah.
something that is going to happen again overnight. It's going to take months to years before, let's say, if that does happen again, to get back to where they were. And
Yeah.
and PBS too. With the evolving of times, we see how Mr. Rogers was such a big voice of reason, but now even with now you have all these new shows too. And I'm not saying that they don't have the same message or they're doing bad things, but it definitely feels like there's a shift. There's been a shift in what they're showing now versus what they showed many years ago.
It's a reliance on public buy-in because back then it was a smaller scale, or it seemed like it was a smaller scale, like you had the big corporations, you had the shows, and then you had us. And now with this digital age that we live in, we're going to have to rely. I can only assume that PBS is going to have to shift their gears and rely on digital platforming. They're going to have to rely on-demand viewing. They're going to
Yeah.
literally have to start doing the opposite of what they build when it comes to the underwriting. They're going to have to start forcing us to pay for things that should come, unfortunately, free to us. And I know that
Yeah.
sounds very privileged, but that was the main mission statement for PBS. I think the mission statement will sort of stay the same,
Yeah.
but the intention behind it will be a little bit more desperate because they're going to have to evolve with the times. They're going to have to evolve with the short form media that kids are taking nowadays, with 2-minute videos, with 10-minute videos, with 20-minute, with an hour's worth of shows. They have a lot to compete with, especially when it comes to taking the Corporation for Public Broadcasting away, because they're going to have to start appealing to us in that way. And unfortunately, a lot of people who have a voice don't really know how to use it, and
Yeah.
they don't use it for the benefit of others. They use it for their own personal gain. And I can only hope that people like ourselves do a little bit more in reminding the world why it is important to fund a system and a source that is used to benefit educationally the children and adults,
Yeah.
rather than just getting views or making the next movie hit or making the
Yeah.
next whatever
Yeah, exactly.
trend,
Without being a franchise.
without being a franchise, or without giving in to big name studios that only want
Yeah.
ticket sales.
Exactly. And the thing is, I don't see PBS anytime soon like getting commercials or anything like that, obviously. I think they're going to try and still stay with that, but like you said, a lot of the other things, like you have to pay more, like for streaming, you got to actually pay for like little extras and whatnot. Like
Yeah.
that's definitely, it's going to suck,
Yeah.
going forward, because it's like, yeah, the channel might be commercial free, but all the other stuff we want is not, so
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that that may be a reality someday, but I'm hoping that maybe eventually we'll get people who will care and will start this up again, and will allow public television to become a big thing again.
Yeah, and we don't obviously mean to paint the future in a bleak light. Obviously, we're optimistic when it comes to
And
things
it's
generally.
uncertain.
And it's uncertain, but unfortunately, when it comes to the historical patterns of public education
Yeah.
and public broadcasting, it doesn't look all that great as of now, unless people with big power and big names and big money do something about it.
Exactly.
Generally, I would say we would be optimistic about this, but if anything, we're going to leave this on a hopeful note because we could only hope that we're put uh, on the seat of priority for these corporations that are going to take the place of the CPB.
Exactly. And I'll say this as well. A lot of people, and I'm sure you all know what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to turn this into something political, but I'll just say this. A lot of people like to point their fingers at one person in particular. I'm not going to say this person's name, but I think everybody knows who we're talking about. The way I look at it is I don't think it should ever be a one-sided decision. There's plenty of people there who wanted to get rid of this for a long time, and it should never be a versus contest. It should just be about people wanting to do good in this world and wanting to care about education and wanting to care about people. And I think it's really bigger than just, oh, it's one side wants and one side doesn't, or, this and this wants this. It's much bigger than that because PBS impacted so many people on a high level. My parents included, and they love PBS and they're very disappointed about this as well. So I think really at the end of the day, it's more about wanting to do the right thing and wanting to care about your fellow person rather than trying to point fingers at who's in the wrong. And I think it always should be about that.
Yes, absolutely. But let's hope that people take accountability in the way that does affect others.
Exactly.
So
And
that
that's
we can
exactly.
absolutely put ourselves in a position to where we protect our rights, we protect public education, and we protect things that are more than just for profit and more than just for views or for likes and whatnot.
Exactly, 100%. And it's because of these funding credits that for years we were able to experience some of the greatest television on the planet. And we were able to not only learn basic skills like reading, writing, math, etc., but we learned how to be good people. We learned how to be people who care, and we learned how to be people who contribute to society and in a positive way and that want the best for other people. So I do thank PBS for that. So for this last little bit, I didn't know if you would like to explain in just maybe a few sentences why PBS funding and PBS in general is so important to maybe help close this out.
Funding PBS protects a public and communal space in television, in visual media that prioritizes us as viewers. It prioritizes education, creativity, and equal access over profit. And supporting PBS and supporting outlets like PBS is choosing media that serves us and the public good over the profitable bottom line.
Yeah.
And if you care about your education, about your children's education, about your neighbor's education, about the kids 100 years from now, then do yourself a favor and support, whether it is watching, donating, or whatever, to PBS. Because I know for a fact I would not be the person I am without PBS.
Beautifully said, my friend. I think you nailed it on the head, basically. But basically, all I want to say, folks, is PBS is so important for people to be able to enjoy educational, entertaining shows for no cost to us. Children, people like us, when we were kids, grew up with many of the shows on PBS Kids. We've been talking about this basically the entire episode, but adults also, like my parents, enjoy Ken Burns' documentaries, American Experience, shows that actually try to show history for what it really is and not try to take a certain view on it, just being blatantly like, this is what it was. And Also, my mom loves shows like Sewing with Nancy, a lot of the popular, shows that are not necessarily historical or educational, but just more for entertainment. Well, I guess you could say Sewing Nancy's educational. You're learning how to sew, Bob Ross, you're learning how to paint, and all these other kinds of shows. My parents loved those kind of shows, and it's so sad to see that this may not be a reality much longer. So I urge people to continue the legacy that has brought so many people joy and happiness, and donate to your local PBS station or to the public broadcasting service in general, because really now it is about, and always has been about, viewers like us, but even more so now, it is truly about viewers like us.
Yeah.
And with that, folks, I think that's another episode in the bag. And in fact, our last episode of the year and of season 1. Isn't it? It's wild to think that we start a year ago and now this is where we end with PBS Funding Credits. And I'm only excited to see what the year holds for us. So without further ado, folks, I would just like to say thank you for supporting us all this entire year. We thank you all for listening to Rewind Room. And we are excited, folks, to see what happens in the future. Obviously, we have season 2 coming. That is confirmed. And please stay tuned for the end of the year, because we will be giving a little end of year recap on our first season, talking about some of our favorite moments, as well as looking forward to what the future could hold. Anyhow, folks, make sure to follow us on all of our streaming services. We are on every podcast streaming service. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple. We are on Deezer. We are on Amazon. We are on Audible, which is basically Amazon, but we're on so many different forms. Outcasts. And if we're not on your favorite podcast service, please let us know. We will try to get on there. If you listen on, I know we're not on SoundCloud, we're not on a lot of those. So please, if you guys enjoy hearing us and would like to hear us on one of those, let us know. And we will work on getting on one of those platforms for sure. All our episodes. And for those of you who watch on YouTube, make sure to comment, like, rate, and subscribe. And whenever you do, please hit that little bell so you'll be notified about all our new videos. And hopefully on YouTube, we'll start getting into some lives eventually, and we'll start getting into maybe even some just nostalgic videos as well. You never know what the future could hold, aside from just having Rewind Room content. Without further ado, folks, my name is John.
And I'm Ramona.
And we will catch you all on the Rewind in 2026. See you then, folks.